Episode 9 of Gamerside Chat.
Nice.
Already?
We're on episode 9. Technically, we should be further, but we've been,
I was about to
fucking
say,
up the last
this
one,
ain't
so.
Listen, me and this hairstyle are not complaining. I'm only halfway up. It's the point of no return, but I still look like Krusty the Clown, so we're not going to do that video stuff. How about that?
I have no idea who she's talking to, what she's talking about, but.
She's talking to her cat.
She's talking to the cat. Regardless.
No, you know what? You know what? Y'all gonna leave me and Mr. Pickles out of this.
Mr. Pickles.
Mr. Pickles. I love you, Mr. Pickles.
All right, hold on, y'all. Back on track,
He don't love y'all.
We got.
Here's how y'all be treating me.
As you can kind of hear, for those listeners, you can hear we have a guest today. It's not just a regular 4-man sausage party today. We do have a venerable guest. We have Miss Kim all the way from New York. You know what I'm saying, son?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, Kim, yay.
So,
yeah.
Hey man, I'm appropriate. Look. If it's American, I'm appropriating. I'm appropriating. Know what I mean? Appropriating, son.
You appropriate that, son?
That's what I'm talking about, son.
That ass.
Listen, my guy.
My guy.
But Kim is, we've been friends for what? A smooth decade and some change. That's been a long time.
Has it been a decade?
It's been a while.
A decade.
It's been a good while.
For all of us, it's been a real long time. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been
No, it's been a while. But Kim is a forever student, it feels like. She is a linguist. So if you start using terrible words, she will tell you about yourself. An artist as well. But I'm not going to, give her business. I'll let her do it herself. Kim, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, as much as you want to, of course.
Just give them a little bit, Kim. Don't give them too much now.
We don't want you to get doxxed, you know what I'm saying?
Damn. Chief of Lockhart in the building.
All right, so I am a PhD student at NYU in my 3rd year.
New York, stand up.
I'm come from a forensic linguistics background. I've worked death row cases and stuff like that, dealing with African American English, and that's what my dissertation is going to be on: variation in African American English as far as the syntax goes. And that's it. This is actually a really good place to be in because, I can work from home and my routine was still disrupted, but I'm all right.
That's what's up. So, as you can tell, at least one of us in here is very smart. You know what I'm saying? Got your education and stuff behind it, But glad to have you, of course. What we try to do is we believe in diversity in voices, intersectionality, all that. So we feel like we always want representation from multiple types. So over time, we're probably going to have some other people on. So we'll start with other friends, people we know and trust, of course. Yeah, like I said, glad to have you on. So.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. And of course, you already heard the rest. He killed a turtle. That's Ed, of course. So Ed's here. Wade's here as well, and Mark.
What is the point of this camcorder, and why am I watching you? There's a deer in the camp. I'm going to kill it. There's a deer in the camp.
It records events for you to be able to view later. You know what I'm saying? So you don't forget stuff. That's what the camcorder does.
Deer just in the camp.
You have really cut down all these trees, dude.
Yeah,
the funny thing is, come to the fast travel. Now I'm gonna come with the glider to come get you. I'm not gonna come with the glider.
Does anyone?
We do have a glider.
We do got a glider. Yeah.
Does anyone want to explain this gaping ass hole in the? Oh my god, this game has glitched me. Okay, all right, whoa. There was a gaping ass hole in the gate that I had walked through. Okay. You know what? How fucking dare you?
Look, he has to be able to,
Mark
give you the
only has one descriptive word. That's it.
That's it.
That's all.
I don't know. All right, so you have
another gaping word.
Yawning, wide, big, giant,
expansive. I do show expansive. I can fuck with expansive. Accommodating.
Commodious.
Commodious.
Mm-hmm.
All
Ooh.
right.
I don't even know that. That's brand new to me.
Commodious.
Uh,
All right, Mark. Here's your redo. Here's your redo, Mark. Go ahead.
there was this just commodiously set area.
Are you talking about pop in? Because I'm
Like
getting
an
some serious
adverb?
pop in.
No, adjective. What is that?
I would say an
Yeah.
adjective, or
Yeah. Nah.
I
What is
used it
that?
in the
Gaping or
adjective
commodious? Those are
sense.
adjectives. He's describing a thing.
See, there we go.
We're nowhere near you, Ed. I don't even know where you at. I don't remember
Ed,
the last time you even played this game.
Yo, I don't.
I'm
No, just run toward us. Run
Now, if we
toward
was playing
us.
Destiny,
Ed,
your
I'm gonna
boat could
make an
take care of
attempt and
that.
try and come save you, Ed. I'm gonna come towards you.
I don't even
I
know
just
where
want
Wade
you to
is
know
at. Where are
I'm as
you at?
scared as I can see.
I'm
I can
here in my
see
tower.
Ed.
Oh,
I
okay.
can
I
see
see you
Ed.
now.
Um,
You were over here building this giant obelisk tower of a thing.
We can see you, Ed. Just keep coming.
I'm running to. Can y'all see me?
Yeah.
You sound so enthusiastic about it.
I see your name.
Ass.
All right. I think I see Ed with my modern bow. I need some more regular arrows though. Because this is actually a pretty good spot to build and live. The mutants don't come as often, you know. They show up, but they're not, you know, they aren't as
They don't show up
active
in
around here.
droves.
Yeah. Pretty,
How did I even get back to the fucking base? I don't remember. I remember us like stopping near a cave and then being like, "Well,
oh,
we'll
you're
die here
going, yeah,
tonight."
you're going towards like the primary one. So.
Are y'all underground?
No, we're above ground.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you remember? So in peaceful mode, you remember that area where we built all this stuff? That's basically where we are now.
Are we in
Um,
peaceful mode right now? We're not in peaceful
oh
mode.
no, we're
No,
not.
no,
We are
this is the
not.
real
Okay.
deal, buddy.
Matter of
Okay.
fact, Wade, there are a couple. Oh, never mind. They can't come across the water, but they were running down that hill and they're going to do something.
Man, if they come over here, they're gonna get done up. That's all I know.
Run up, get done up.
Act up. You can get smacked up.
Yeah, I guess they don't have swimming lessons with cannibals. You know what I'm saying?
Run and go tell mommy.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna see if
your
I can
whole
heat them from
crew.
across the water with this arrow
What you
though.
gonna do? What you
Oh,
gonna do?
nah, I don't
That's
think
that
the arrow
Missy
goes that
Elliott.
far.
Y'all know about
So
that
what's
Missy
the
Elliott.
so it wasn't there was a I don't know
There's Ed.
I don't know what the first topic is gonna be, but there was
PS5, baby.
also a guy last night who got shot at a Wendy's? No. Yeah, a
Wendy's.
Wendy's.
Yeah, Wendy's.
Yeah,
Oh, is that why they set
Was
Wendy's
it
on
Friday?
fire?
yeah. But we'll
Yeah,
get to that
so
though.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely kinda wanna talk
No,
about
we'll
that.
definitely discuss that because that's on our itinerary, the agenda, the other descriptive word for agenda. You know, a
We've
synonym,
given
if you
them
will.
the idle prattle. Let's get to the
Is this
goods.
a thesaurus episode or something?
It will be. Hey man, we have our own linguist on the episode. Man, we have to use all the words.
You
We need all the
All of them.
words.
have to use
We
all
have
of
to
them.
use a plethora of
A
words today.
plethora.
We have to dig
Yes.
deep within our lexicon.
Before
We have
Kim's
to use
arrival,
a
we were
copious amount of words.
look. Before her arrival, we were only using a modicum of our vocabularies. You know what I'm saying?
What is this unholy tower you are building? I
You
see
like
it in the
that?
distance.
This is a
You like
tribute
that?
to. Hey man, we've been here for how many days? Too many. We're
You
going
like that,
mad,
Mark?
so we have to build this tower.
Y'all need to check y'all sanity level right now
Oh,
because
it's probably
it
zero.
looks like y'all have it looks like
Mark,
y'all have fucking lost
Mark,
it.
get over here and kneel down to this tower, okay?
Jesus.
What is happening?
Oh, Kim, be happy you can't see this because I'm
Yo,
worried.
I'm very happy right now. OD.
This is crazy.
Oh, I saw that. I had no idea what happened. I think what's
Y'all,
happening is certain pop-in, like, it's trying to reconcile what trees are gone, because we cut all these trees down, and our games are just syncing up to let us know that these trees are gone. Because I'm walking
the
up on them right
utter,
now, and they are disappearing as I get to them.
the
I
utter
think this is important.
deforestation. The utter deforestation.
Oh
And this is to do what? To satisfy what?
Oh yeah. See, yeah.
What is
The game,
this?
the way he cut down so many trees is
That's
really trying to reconcile where they're at. Like, it doesn't know what
that's
to
my
do.
glider, Mark. Once you build this tower, you can take this glider up to the top and you can fly around the whole fucking map.
You
So that's the reason.
crazy fucking
That's the
bastard.
reason you need to drop down and worship this tower right here.
How many pieces of lumber is this shit? Did you
Man,
design this?
I cut down a copious amount of trees to build this. Okay.
Did you
Ooh,
design
copious. Come
this?
on, come on.
What in the hell? Oh my god.
I think you gotta go up on the cliffside.
Do we at least have a sled?
Yeah, I built this one.
Let's talk about these issues. Come on, let's talk about these issues. My god, this is absolutely
All right. So, what's the first? What's the first topic?
goddamn.
Superfluous conversation.
All right, so
Oh my god.
the first one is, the PS5 has been revealed. Hardware, everything but price. We've seen some games, no real gameplay, of course, didn't expect it. Saw the hardware, a couple of accessories and things, and pretty much see what you guys think. You know, I will say that the hardware seems to be, listen to the internet, it's a little bit divisive, which that's going to be the case anytime. Some people will say it's too safe. If they're talking about one system, they're going to say it's too abstract, it's weird. Others say it's like a Wi-Fi router, which it kind of does, but I don't mind the look of the router. The look of the router. I don't mind the look of the PlayStation.
See, there you go.
I feel like that says it
Look,
all.
it does look like a Linksys router from 2007. But there's nothing wrong with that. It looks different enough, and to me, the biggest thing with electronics is how well it works. Or does it have games? Does it have good games? Does I want to play? And for the most part, a lot of what I've seen was pretty good. But hardware-wise, like the controller looks dope. I like that headset. It looks pretty good. And
Oh, the headset looks dope. I want to know what it does.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way the headset looks. And then there's the remote, which I won't get. What, the regular controller? Yeah. I like the controller.
It's cool. It's cool.
But the
I actually
the
like
media remote, I don't care
the
for
camera.
because it's unnecessary. The camera is a good design. I'll probably never use it, but I like the design.
Yeah, I like the design though. Yeah.
I bought the first camera and gave it away to my nephew. So
I have the PS4 camera, but I don't use it. I like the way it looks. Like I like the real minimalist, rectangular prism design of that one, and the newer one. Like whoever did the design language, they made sure everything kind of matched. So I like what I see.
Yeah, it looks really cohesive. I like that. And I feel like with the previous systems, things looked really cheap. That I really didn't like it. Like
they put no thought of that PlayStation 1, boy. That junk was just a damn square
rectangle. Like that was the color of the plastic when they put it together. They didn't put nothing in there.
Design-wise, it fit the times too.
Yeah.
It made sense for when it was revealed. Oh, the PS1 was a tank.
Yeah,
It was a
Same
tank.
with PlayStation 2,
It is true. It is true. That's true. Yeah, because that's when you had memory sticks.
Yeah.
Memory cards, man. I was
Yeah.
away from the memory cards, boy.
You had that memory card, you leave that thing on all
thing
day,
go.
boy.
Yep. Fuck.
Oh man, those Xena TVs were tanks. You couldn't break a Xena.
Yo.
Joke's on you, sucker.
Yo, I still have my PlayStation 2. I almost set my house on fire. Fire department comes in, closes the whole place down, and it still works.
Wow.
Well, hey, durable goods.
Yep. Durable house, durable system.
Oh, PS2 is one of
Yo,
the
I
greatest
used to
systems
leave
of all
my
time.
PS2 on. Yeah, I used to leave my PS2 on for days, man. Remember
Hmm.
that?
I mean, I would argue the PS2 is the best system they've made to date. You know, if you just think about the entire library and everything they brought, with it, the third
Oh man,
party
yeah.
connections, all that stuff, it doesn't,
They
I
had some
mean,
good games on PlayStation 2.
oh yeah, a bunch of classics. I mean, the PS1, all
Oh
of
yeah.
Sony's systems been great.
Mhm. But their headsets were trash. I mean, it was made out of a string of plastic, and it actually looked like these little $5 headphones that I just bought. It
So I
was
don't know what's going on
terrible.
with the accessory game, but I know I bought the PlayStation Gold headset, and Sony had to replace them for me twice because the hinges kept breaking.
Hmm.
And granted, I know I have a large head, but those hinges were just not robust. So I ended up buying. They gave me credit back, so I bought the platinum ones, and those have been holding up a lot better, like a whole lot better. It is dark as everything in here. I don't even know
Yeah,
where I'm
I
going.
can't
Yeah,
even
we like
see.
walking
I
together.
can't
What's
even see
happening?
where the
All
push this
right.
thing.
Well, I almost died, but that's good. I'm good. Where's this unholy tower? I don't even understand. Oh, here it is.
Oh yeah, I see.
He's crazy. So crazy people can do anything. Yeah, that's what
I
I
can't.
fucking did
I can't
somehow.
see any. I can't see anything.
Can't see shit.
Okay, hold on. Let me adjust my brightness on the TV. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, but no, I will say the PS5. I like the way it looks, and compared to the Xbox Series X, I think it looks more interesting. The Xbox Series X will probably hold up design wise for longer because it's really just a box.
Yeah,
But
it's just a. Yeah, it's
so
just like a.
yeah, if you
Oh yeah, I
like,
like the Harley Quinn paint. I thought you would like the
The
Harley
Harley
Quinn
Quinn
paint
one looks
better.
really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
I like that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
The question is, where are y'all gonna get the digital or the disc?
Disc, absolutely
Yeah,
the
why
disc.
would I get a digital version so I can't watch DVDs or put nothing else in it? Like, I don't know. It's just most people don't have a DVD player anymore. They use their consoles if they have a console. So if you,
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point.
if you
That's
even
People
true.
have
got
There you
DVDs and
DVDs,
go.
yeah,
stuff, you know.
that
That's a
is,
strong assumption.
yep, that media is phasing out. So, but the thing is, if you get the digital version, you won't be able to buy any physical copies of a game, and there's still brick and mortar locations who might have a sale, and you might miss out on that sale, and then you're going to be at the mercy of the PlayStation Store. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
mhm, yeah, yeah, I've bought more digital games.
Yeah.
But it's
I
like I still want
just
the option though. Like, like when Final Fantasy VII came out, although I was too poor to do it anyway, I had the option to buy the big like physical thing with the art
Yeah,
book and all the rest of this other
yeah, that's how
stuff.
they get you. That's how they get you. The little extra swag that comes with it if you get the collector's
Right.
edition.
God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yo, I definitely remember that. Yo, Call of Duty came out with like a RC car to play with. They were like, man, if you don't sign up for this right now, you ain't gonna never get it. And then you go back in there after the game come out, they got like 10 on the back shelf and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, you told me.
oh yeah, they did have like a damn $1,000 fucking version of the game. It came with clothes and shit. I remember that.
Wear that shit to work.
Oh my god.
No, but you know what? I would always sign up for that shit. I would go into GameStop. Oh yeah. I'm gonna pre-order all of this. I want the pre-order Destiny this time. I just got paid, so I want to be on time with everybody else for them 2 weeks. And then
Yeah.
I want to get this and this, and then I forget. And then I come back like 3 years later, and they're like, "Oh, you have a $15
Oh yeah.
credit
Oh yeah.
because."
Yeah. You put $5 down on 3 of these games. You could roll them all over to this new game.
Right. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Yup. That's exactly what happened, yo.
Yeah. So you said, hey, you think about the digital one?
Yeah. Okay. Well, think about this. If I do buy a physical copy of a game, and you want to borrow it, and then you can't. It's not going to work for you because you can't even put the fucking disc into your system because you got the digital version.
Now I think that I think that might give them a window to say, can you share games with friends? Like if you give a person
I don't see that
the
happening though.
opportunity. Why not? I mean, you can do share play now. Yeah, you
You
can do that
can do share
in a
play, but you
limited
can't
sense.
share like the title plus you're using them both
But
with bandwidth to do so.
who's to say that's not something that they can expand upon?
No, I'm sure they can do it. I don't foresee them doing it, especially with them pushing Game Pass and PlayStation Now and stuff. I don't see them allowing you to let people borrow your digital goods in that way because that's going to take away from their
They would
subscription.
lose so much money. Yeah, they would lose money doing that. They would never do that.
But then there's something else too. Like, if I want to really catch a sale on something and be locked into PlayStation Now, I'm gonna go to Steam. Because I have a gaming PC, like especially for like I want to be on PlayStation for like multiplayer games. Like if I ever come across the Division again, if y'all ever come across Destiny again, if something else comes up where I want to be with other people. But if I'm playing a Tomb Raider, something like that, that's one player, and Assassin's Creed, if it's $2 on Steam, I mean, I'm not doing this.
And you know what's funny? That's one of the reasons I'm leery to get an all digital console right now because he did just fly off. You just jump off. You just jumped off.
I watched that shit happen.
Dude,
too.
Wade walked up there with a whole glider. You don't have wings, man. What you doing?
I watched Wade just hitting the ground, just bam.
Yo, I crash landed hard too.
God damn, yeah, you did. That shit was. Oh my god.
This game clearly needs a parachute.
Did somebody say Ed? That was bad. Goodness gracious.
Jeez. The fuck,
Ed, you should have got your turtle
what
shell
the
out first.
Fuck, man.
You should have pulled out your turtle shell first.
Yeah, see if you could glide down with that shit.
Not the glide. Dude, I fell off the side of a cliff with a turtle shell and I barely got hurt because I was like sledding down the edge. But no, like I was saying, I was the reason I'm leery to get all digital right now is because the PSN store and the Xbox store haven't reached like Steam levels of deals yet. When they get close to that, I'm more likely to try something, like all digital future because, it'll make sense to do it that way. But for now, I can still go to like bestbuy.com or whoever's website and buy whether it's a used or just a discounted physical game easier, typically for less a lot of times than the digital one. Because certain digital games are still like $40-$50. They've been that way for a little while. A digital PC game, since they're almost completely digital now, a game is out for like 6 months and then boom, it's like half off. PlayStation will be like, oh no, we know this game's been out for 6 months, but you still gonna pay us full price. Eventually they'll put it on sale or they'll make it one of the greatest hits and stuff. And they've been doing better with deep sales, but nothing like what Steam and the Epic Store and the rest of them do.
Not at all.
And the thing is too, the other reason is this is probably not as big of an issue with the PS5 and Xbox Series X because you'll be able to expand the storage. But having to install the entire game on your hard drive, like my PlayStation 4 right now, if I would have still had the original hard drive, man, I'd be deleting and reinstalling stuff all the damn time. Because 500 gigs wasn't shit.
Yeah.
And then
I think
even
it
with
is
this
interesting
terabyte
we
in
haven't
here,
seen the software specs. I
We
think.
have they put them
Or
out.
oh,
Yeah,
they have they. I didn't see them.
So the
yeah. I think it's like
PS5 has like
800
800
some
something
gigs.
gigs, but
Yeah.
it has it has an extra like on the M.2 slot, so you can put like a SSD in there to
Oh,
expand your
nice.
hard drive space. And I think the um, Xbox Series X supports like
It's a
some external as
terabyte.
well. Yeah, it has a terabyte, but it supports software storage expansion too, which is good because you're going to need that because dude, these games
You're
are
gonna
getting
need it.
bigger. You know,
Yeah.
like I was playing. So the kid got Modern Warfare, right? The most recent one, and I started joining my Xbox. It was like 90 something gigs, and then the
Yeah.
updates themselves were like 40 gigs now for Call of
Yeah.
Duty and shit like that because they're always putting through more maps and things. Like the games are getting bigger and bigger. I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
What
Bigger
is
and
it?
bigger.
Cyberpunk. I can't wait for that game. I'm pretty sure Cyberpunk's gonna be a thick ass game. It's gonna be like 80 gigs, something crazy like that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
You
know.
remember PlayStation? The memory cards were like 8 megabytes on the memory card. Either like an
Yeah.
8 megabyte
Yeah.
or a
Shit.
16 megabyte memory card.
256
Yo,
megabytes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
where
was
you going?
balling if you had a 16 megabyte memory card on a
Oh, you
PlayStation.
were a
You was
badass
balling.
if
I
you had
had
the one with the
the,
button. Yeah.
but I
Exactly.
had the little bootleg one, and it had chronic amnesia, so it's like I had to beat games
Oh,
too many
yeah.
times. Yeah.
Yep. Go up there and be missing a foul. Yep.
Oh man, when you sit there
Yep.
and when your memory card you put in it says file corrupt, man, my heart will fall all
Oh,
the way through the
yeah.
ball. Be feeling
Yeah. It had a
so
little blocks
bad.
up there. Had the little
Yeah.
The broken
transparent
blocks.
Yes.
blocks up there. Oh,
Oh my
yeah. It used to
god.
make me mad,
So you
boy.
just give up. I'm like,
Mad
well,
as hell. Like,
life ain't worth living.
So you know what? Fuck this. I'll never play this game again.
Yeah.
Oh, my
nah,
God. I
I
forgot
was
all
too
about that.
determined. I must have beat Final Fantasy VII like 20 times fucking around with that. I'll be playing Spyro, and you can tell when this shit was happening. Because when you go in between worlds and it's loading or whatever, and all of a sudden you get the little red error at the bottom, oh, it cannot load right now. Fuck. The
Yeah.
shit
Yeah.
put me back in like the first reactor on the first disc or some shit. I had to play that like 20 times.
Yep.
No, oh, dude, the multi having the games with multiple discs and one of the disc has like the tiniest of hairline scratches on it, and it
Oh my
Oh,
takes like it
yeah.
just
gosh.
refuses to load, but you finally get it that
Yep.
one time.
When you get to that spot, yep.
They
God.
start skipping. You know it's gonna happen because the music start cutting out wrong. But come on, man.
Yep.
That's the one
Nah.
thing that with digital. Digital, you don't have to worry about your disc being destroyed. On the flip side, though, you don't feel like you really own it anymore. You know, because say for example, like that PT demo, if you deleted it, Sony just pulled that from the store. You can never get it again if it's not on your PlayStation anymore. And people are
Yeah, that's
selling
true.
PlayStation 4s with like for like a whole hundreds of dollars over their price just because PT is installed on the store. You
That's
know,
crazy. I did not know they were selling that.
I
yeah,
did not know that.
yeah. People are selling just because, like,
Just for a
because of
demo.
yep.
Wow.
But yeah, there are a number of games I've wanted to
I
go
should have
back and
sold mine
play.
if I'd known that. I got PT on mine.
The problem is if they go and make anything, take anything off the store, if it's not on your PlayStation, you just or your Xbox or whatever, it's gone. You know, outside of the oldest of PC games, most PC games, if it's gone, you'll find somewhere to get it. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
if it's taken off Steam, God probably has it if it's an old game, good old games, or the Epic Store, whomever. Like someone will have a file, someone can get it. But the console, if it's not on your system, they pull it from the store, it's just gone. That's not
Yep.
always bad because
Yeah.
a lot of times they just do that with games that just didn't do well and weren't really good in the first place. But having that issue with even games that were kind of good, now you're missing out because the price are gone. That sucks. But getting back to the PlayStation 5, though, like I said, man, I like what they're doing. Some of the games look good. That Spider Man Miles Morales is going to be dope.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm definitely getting that.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yep.
getting that. What the hell?
I'm surprised they didn't show a new God of War game. I just knew for sure they were going to show
Well,
next.
I feel like they're going to do either the next God of War that, or they're going to put out a DLC for the PS4 version. Because at the end of, and this is a spoiler alert. Well, I'll try not to spoil it. But at the end of the most recent God of War, there was basically something saying, "Hey, there's going to be another chapter in the story." And I hope they
Yeah,
continue that.
I didn't think of that as another chapter though. I thought of that as like the next game. Like I was gonna have to wait
No,
for
no,
the
that's what I
next
mean.
game.
Another chapter, just another thing, not like an
Oh,
add-on,
okay, okay.
because they
Oh,
really
but you were
said they
talking about
had.
DLC though. You were
No,
talking
no,
about
no, no.
DLC.
Just another chapter being like a whole sequel can be the next chapter in the story. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But one thing about it,
What are
I
you
think I want
doing?
to say the director or one of the producers, somebody said that they weren't planning DLC for the game.
Yes, that's what I remember.
But if they do, that'd be dope. But if they don't, like, I'll be fine with waiting for another God of War on PS5. You know,
Yeah,
if they
I
do
would
that, it'd be
take a
dope.
full game. Yeah, I would definitely. Are y'all trying to fly on that glider, or what are y'all doing?
I'm
Being
trying to beat
ridiculous,
the shit out
probably.
of Ed with his meat because he's fucking trying to.
They're being childish. Pay them no
It's by
attention.
the damn tower. I put it down. Yeah, put it down by the tower. Yeah, I flew on it.
What the hell are you striking me for?
It's just. I
You,
thought you were
you,
Ed.
Oh,
you
you thought I
gotta
was
jump
actually
when
trying
you
to
press
assault Ed?
triangle and then
Terrible.
hold R2, and then remember that the flight controls are inverted. So if you press up, you're gonna fly straight into the ground. So
So press
Yeah,
up.
I had to
As
learn
soon as
that
you
the
get on,
hard way.
press up.
Because that's exactly why I crashed. I was like, what's wrong?
yeah,
And it's good for your physical fitness. That was a rabbit
This
in here.
character.
Yeah, the PS5. I like what I saw. There was some weird games they showed there, like that Bug Snacks. Man, I have no idea what was going on when I was watching that shit.
which one? What was it
That
called?
bug
Which one?
snacks.
Bug
Bug
Snacks. That shit was
snacks.
weird, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that
I
bug snacks was
actually,
mad weird.
I,
I was
I
kind of
kind of
uncomfortable.
slightly enjoyed that. I'm not gonna lie. I see where they're going with that, and it was interesting to me.
Oh,
But
it's
yeah,
definitely interesting, but it made me uncomfortable.
I
But
don't think.
I don't
Yeah,
remember seeing that Bug Snacks game. I don't
oh,
know.
go back and watch the trailers. You'll see it. Like it's really
oh yeah, you
it's hard to
can't fucking.
explain. It's definitely
So what? You eat bugs or something?
nah. Nah,
They're
like I said, it's difficult to
snacks.
explain. Like really, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch the trailer for it to even get close
Yeah.
to making sense.
Yeah,
Like
they're
even
bug
remotely.
snacks.
But
What I
that
was
Miles.
excited about was Horizon
Oh man,
Oh
Forbidden.
yes. Oh
Yeah,
yes.
Forbidden
West.
West.
Forbidden
Yes.
West. Yeah, Forbidden
Forbidden.
West.
Yeah, I was
That's
excited about
great.
that too, boy. I can't wait.
And wait.
Yeah,
Oh
yo,
god.
Grand Theft Auto. It feel like Grand Theft Auto 5 been out for fucking 20 years. Like, why do they keep adding shit? Just come out with Grand Theft Auto 6, yo. That's ridiculous.
They should remake Vice City. That was the one I actually liked.
Vice City was dope.
I want
They
another
should
San
put them all
Andreas.
away and never open the door. Shut them all down.
We know you don't like Rockstar games, Mark, which is fine.
They
It's up to you.
suck.
They do not. You are a
Horrible.
liar and a charlatan.
And they are the worst ever. It's
They
just
are
crudely
often
made
great
games.
games.
The subject matter is absolutely abhorrent.
I
It
can't
is. It
disagree with
is.
that. I won't disagree with that.
The graphics are terrible.
It's
Wait a
just
minute.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
I
the
mean,
radio
you would
Yeah.
stations were
think
great.
they should be better, though. You would
Yeah,
think,
exactly. You
as
would think.
far as
You would think.
technology has came,
You
Oh
yeah,
no,
would
you
no,
would
no!
think.
think the
Grand
Grand
Theft
Theft
Auto
Auto
Five
games.
is a really good looking game.
You'd be
That's more
wrong as fuck.
that is mostly add on
You're
stuff.
right.
Like people make it look better, but consider how much stuff they put in the game. Oh, you just took him down. I
Wrong.
didn't get a chance
Yeah.
to fight him. I just saw him drop. But
Hell yeah,
because
he
think
took
about
an
it,
arrow to the neck.
as much. The thing is, they know what they're doing. Because as much as some of y'all don't like Red Dead Two, it was a great looking game.
No, I'm laughing
Everybody's
at Ed
laughing.
right now.
Everybody's laughing.
Oh, we don't laugh at the
I'm,
Yeah, did
I'm
you fuck with
watching
the?
you fight this shit too.
Terrible.
Oh god.
Yeah. Deathloop.
Speaking of
Deathloop
games
looks
I can
dope. I want to
actually
play that.
see, Destiny will also
Definitely.
be on PS5.
Will it? No, you
Oh,
won't. Yeah, don't lie to
PS5?
that woman. Do
Don't
not lie to
lie.
her.
come through.
Yeah,
And then when you
he
do, y'all gonna be here for
definitely.
2 weeks. Mari's still mad about that shit.
I mean,
Because
I
y'all was
put
on
many
division
hours
for
into
like 2
Destiny.
weeks and everybody quit.
Yeah, but we got back on Division though.
We
We
got
did
back
get
on,
back
yeah,
on it though. We got back on it.
yeah.
Yeah, I did not do that.
He still complains about it.
We
And
did
so
leave him
do
hanging.
I, actually. But I
I mean,
didn't pay for that with my own money, so I'm okay.
the crazy thing is, like, he's not wrong because I think we started playing it, and then like I went to China for 2 weeks, and then they played for a couple weeks, and then when I came back, I didn't get back on, and they had stopped playing, and so like we were just like, oh yeah. The book problem with
I
Division,
mean, it did.
man,
Yeah, it did happen. It happened.
it definitely happened. You did play longer.
No,
Yeah,
me and Ed
Yeah.
were playing it for a while though. Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't that fun to play after a while. Like, it was really well made. Like, I can see the craftsmanship. Like, I'm walking around places and seeing places where I've actually been. I should
Yeah,
have took
that's
a breath.
dope.
But
yeah.
Yeah,
anyway,
they need to make a division in North Carolina.
right. Like,
That'd be weird.
that would be fun.
It would,
But it wasn't as fun as blowing
it
up shit
would be dumb
online,
as
you
hell.
know?
I just want to see our landmarks though. That's all.
But they could probably do it. They could do it in Charlotte. It would work in Charlotte.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be
Yeah,
very
they
big
could.
though, because everything's real spread out here in North Carolina. But
No, I
no, the
want a
problem.
division I want a division in Greensboro. Oh yeah, no, that was in the
Yeah,
UK, bro. That was in the UK. That
Yeah,
was in the U.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that was
in
in
yeah.
the UK,
Bristol,
bro.
in England.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, they're about it. Yeah,
Yup, as they fucking should.
Yeah,
Yup,
I was very proud of them for doing that.
yeah. That was dope. But yes,
as was I.
matter of fact, 'cause we'll go ahead and segue into that because we're talking about the protests and everything like that. Before we talked about, Mark had been pretty much ground zero down in South Carolina where some of the riots started occurring. But Kim, you participated
Oh,
in the
nice
march.
land, Mark. Good job, Mark. Nice land. Sorry.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Be-
Kim, it was a good land. It was a good land. It was a clean land. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
he stuck the landing. He stuck
He
the
did stick
landing.
to
That was
landing.
nice.
Oh man,
Oh,
what y'all asking me?
So
If
okay,
these
now
Negroes
I will
stay
I
on
will
topic,
say, from what I noticed, they were. You said that you had gotten out of Washington Square Park before they had done the whole corralling in people to pretty much do massive
let me get that
arrests.
glider mark.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of led you to be able to kind of see that and say, okay, this is where this is about to turn, and I see what they're doing. Like, what made you? What were the signs that you saw that kind of led to that point?
Well, there was a few things. Like, first, there were it was just what had happened before, because you saw previous things in the previous days leading up to, like, the walk across the bridge and the memorial, where they were blocking off trains before the curfew started. That was around the time where the habeas corpus was lifted, so if you get arrested, they could just keep you.
This is
There
whack.
was also, right, there was also like a protest. I think that was going to be on Roosevelt Island, which was actually pretty close to me because I'm in like Queens, like right by the, well, not right by the water, but close enough. So it's like there's a little footbridge that goes over there. There's a gondola that goes over there, like right next to the 59th Street Bridge. And then there's the F train that has one stop there. That's the only train that stops there. And it's really easy to block things off. So I started to notice, like, oh, well, things are, you really got to start counting exits. Like, if you're on the island of Manhattan and they are blocking off the train, like, at a given area, you can walk. Before shit hits the fan, you can walk around. You can find other trains. You can still get home. If you're in certain places, you're stuck. So with Washington Square Park, once we got there, because it's literally across the street from NYU. It's across the street from my department. So I knew the area really well. And there are a few exits. I think there's like 4 exits going into Washington Square Park. And as we were walking around, when we got to Foley Square, which is further downtown, there was an area where like we were sort of corralled into, and there were barricades all around. You really couldn't leave except through one way. And there were cops like all the way around there. So, but it's still the middle of the day. The mayor is still around, so nothing happens. But by the time we get to Washington Square Park at 6:30, there's like the curfew is about to come on in an hour and a half, right? the cops that were around the park were starting to mobilize. So you have like 20 different like officers at every exit, which means that if you're still in here at 8 o'clock, there's
Yeah.
nowhere for you to go. Like because there's a wrought iron fence like all the way around it. So if those things are blocked, you can't leave. So,
That's fucked
so
up.
Yeah, I think I
right.
know exactly what you're talking about. I think I've been there enough to feel like, yeah, that is the
Yeah, right where the arch
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the park. I call it the I Am Legend Park because that's where everybody knows it from. So it's
Mm.
like the that park and actually the building that he lived in. That's like departmental like offices and shit. But right across the street from that is where the park is. There's only 4 exits, and so I was like, all right, well it's 6:30. I'm finna be inside of my house by the time 8 o'clock comes. So you live in Astoria, I live in Long Island City, we're gonna go. And so we left, and as we were leaving, the street where one of the exits was, right where my department is, you see like 2 vans and like mad officers with the masks
Oh.
on, like you see them starting to like they were chill at first when it was like midday, but as we get closer to the curfew, you see people mobilizing more, you see people paying more attention, you see like the masks over their face have come down, and I was like, oh, absolutely the fuck not. We're going to walk up this street and then we're going to get to the train where we need to go. And that's what I noticed. That's what I noticed. So I was just like, we cannot be here at 8 o'clock.
So outside
Wow.
of that, that experience, what's the positive things you experienced while, you were out there in the square?
Well, so there were a lot of positive things. The first thing that jumps out is the snacks. So there is like a whole lot
Did
of
you say
people.
snacks?
The snacks.
Snacks. Everybody
Oh,
was out there supporting each other. I got like 5 Cliff bars. I got a Lara bar, the apple
Oh,
pie
actual
flavor.
snacks. I thought you meant like people who look attractive. Okay,
Smart,
continue.
sir.
Nah, there was
I was like,
like
yeah, let's talk
snacks, like
about it.
actual like food. But
I was
there
like,
were 2 bars
yeah.
there. But it was kind of hard to tell because everybody had a mask on too. Like it's like if somebody has on, like you can see a physique beyond the mask, but it's just like like I saw some nice eyes. I'll say that.
You know what? So that's
But
one thing that people
You
don't realize
bastard.
now these days. Before you had to worry about catfishing and hatfishing, you got to worry about mass fishing now.
mask
mass
fishers,
fishing.
you know what's up
Oh
under
my
there?
god.
Nah, but like it was people with food. It was people handing out water. The the protest that I was at had actually split up into a bunch of different groups. So the group that I was with was actually a lot smaller. So we were able to be like apart for more, which was nice. So we had a longer duration of social distancing, which did not last, by the way, but still.
Right.
So it was, it
Yeah.
was nice. You saw people coming together. The people who had organized that portion of the protest, or at least taken control of that portion of the protest, I think were Haitians, or at least like they seem to be broadly Caribbean. You had one with the Jamaican flag, you had one with the Haitian flag, you had an American flag in there, you had a Puerto Rican flag in there. Like it seemed like everybody was coming together for this, which I thought was
That's
really
dope.
nice.
That's dope. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I
I
like.
like that. I like that.
I like that a lot. I like we were marching. We got to the different types of like chants. We got the Black Lives Matter and we got the Black Trans Lives Matter. We got the we out here. We trying to cover the bases. We trying to get everybody. So I
Right.
really like that. I really like that. If somebody was because it was hot that day too, and there's not a lot of shade. So like if somebody's having trouble, oh, I'm a nurse. We'll help you. Like everybody was just really nice.
That's dope.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you
Did
out
you
there?
see? Oh, sorry.
How long were you out there?
I want to give it a few hours. I left the house at like 2. I got there like 2:30 ish to Brooklyn to walk across the bridge.
Hmm.
I want to say we were out there for probably like 3 to 4 hours because we left at 6:30.
Okay.
Mhm. We left at 6:30, so it wasn't a long time. We
Yeah.
could have stayed there, but like I said before, that to me that did not seem like a safe idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of
Yeah.
know when to call it. Don't want to hedge your bets too much and say, okay, we're gonna be out here for a while, and when you start seeing them boys start lurking around, they're ready to start corralling
Mhm.
people or blocking off telling you can't be somewhere and then prevent you from being able to leave from that place. You know, we've seen how that is. So,
Yes. And that's the
yeah.
thing, like, people had gotten caught on the bridge trying to walk across the Manhattan Bridge, and they blocked the bridge off on both ends. And I'm assuming they all got arrested. I don't know what happened, but they were trapped on the bridge. And I remember seeing it on the news too. So there's another layer of it where if you don't have anywhere to be,
Are you trying to set me up?
This is what happens, Kev. You'll be in the
So,
middle of
you're
the
trying to
conversation.
Oh,
See,
it
Ed will
I'm
be
sorry.
coming
devolves
around
Sorry,
into
this son of a
shenanigans.
bitch.
swinging up. Yeah, Ed will come around swinging on you when you go in your fucking menu. You gotta stab his ass with a fucking spear to let him
You
the
son
fuck
of a
know that
bitch.
this shit is not appropriate. You can't go around here swinging axes at people when they're in their inventory trying to get their life together.
This fucker tried to set me on fire while I was in my fucking menu, man.
Yeah, see, that's what the fuck he do. He wait till you not pay no damn attention.
Uh,
oh man, but now, like,
Oh,
because with the
sorry.
pandemic, everything is closed. So
Oh,
it's like, it's not like I can use my ID to get anywhere inside on campus. So it's
right.
like, if you don't live there, you're stuck. Like, there might be someone who's like an ally who wants to open their apartment so people can come in, but chances are you're on your own until
Right.
5
yeah.
a.m. when everything opens. So I was just like,
Man.
I'm not staying here. Like, we have to go
Right.
home.
Yeah. Because the
I
thing
feel
is,
you on that one.
if you leave, you can come back the next day or the next day and the next day. You know, you
Yes.
get home, it's easier to come back.
Exactly. It's easier for you to come back and go back the next day and do what you got to do, but you stay over there like you stuck. Like that's it.
Damn.
Was everything pretty
Fuck
much?
you,
You
man.
know, we've heard a lot about what's going on. You guys need to calm down. We've heard a lot of what's going on with the you
You
know,
bloody
people
bastard.
starting trouble around the protests, you know, kicking off riots and looting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys
Mm-hmm.
witness any of that or have to try to stop anybody from doing that or anything along those lines?
No. No, like everybody was with it. Like from what I saw, nobody was causing. Well, wait. There was one guy. There was one guy when we were walking on Houston, not Houston, but Houston. When we were walking on Houston,
Houston.
um, there was a van full of officers that was, sort of trailing the protest as we went along.
Hmm.
And there was this one white guy who was like getting in front of the van, trying to block them, like cause all of this problems, like shouting at the van and everything. But I mean, that was an individual thing. I didn't see anybody like trying to set fire to anything, break windows or anything. It wasn't anything like that. And if there was, then something, I imagine it would have been shut down quickly. It was very, very peaceful.
That's good. Yeah, because we've
Yeah, it was
seen
very
video
peaceful.
evidence of people who were completely uninvolved, you know,
Right.
and deciding to start
Yeah,
trouble at different places. You know, a lot of times
yeah.
they looked nothing like the people who were actually protesting. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see a lot of that, and of course, people who are opportunists. That's going to happen
Yep.
anytime because you have a lot of people who, and I'm not going to try to make too many excuses because I've seen people saying, well, you know, if people had the means and stuff like that, they wouldn't loot whatever. That's not always true because you have people like Jake Paul out there ransacking and looting and rioting and doing shit like that. You know, people
Who is
of
Jake Paul?
means. A YouTuber, him and his brother are these douche ass YouTubers who, you know, always into some shenanigans, whatever. You've probably seen them in some form of fashion before, but these dudes have made millions through YouTube and other related advertising. So there's no reason they should be trying to get any free anything from looting or ransacking the place. But
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you see a
Oh,
lot
so they were
of
caught like on video doing it?
one of them was Jake was.
Did anybody question them about that? Or I mean, like,
Yeah, I don't know if anybody got arrested with her, but it was put on blast. I think like an apology, something came out. You
Of
know,
course it did.
I haven't followed it a whole lot because I don't care for them, but there was definitely video like people caught him on video, masked up, trying to start something. But well, actually participating in. But we've seen those videos of you know
Mm-hmm.
agent provocateurs,
mhm.
coming in, putting up stuff, putting in things for putting in, putting piles of bricks somewhere to entice people, pushing pallets of wood and stuff against buildings to start fires,
Yeah.
shopping
Yeah.
carts, all kinds of stuff. When the
Yeah.
protesters or going breaking glass, and the actual protesters like, yo, y'all gotta chill, y'all can't do this. This is not why
Yep.
we're here. And then of course
I've
when
seen a
that
few
stuff
videos
starts,
like that.
yeah, and the thing is when it starts, you have the other people who may have been protesters who were like, shit, I can go in and run up in the store and do whatever now, who would have done that any other time, regardless of the reason for the protest, going and doing that. And other people who just wait around who knew something was going to happen and looking for the opportunity to run up and steal stuff from a major corporation or even a small business, Like there was this one guy, I think he had a sports bar. He put a black guy put his life savings into the sports bar, and during a riot, I can't remember where it was. I can't remember if it was Ohio or not, but during a riot, his stuff like his windows got broken, stuff like that, and there was someone interviewing him at the time, and these looters were trying to break in at that moment to like try to steal his safe, to get to his safe,
Wow.
and steal it then, and of course people keeping them back and stuff like that. You said somebody attacking the tower? What do you say?
Oh yeah, we need to. Yeah, somebody's attacking the tower. We need to go kill them.
Oh, but
In a
the
video game.
yeah, no, I guess.
I'll say that.
Just to be
no,
clear.
the
Yeah,
tower.
just to
No.
be
Oh, it's a
clear.
couple of mutants.
Oh, yikes! I just thought about that. Yikes!
Nah, but like by the time I was out on the street, I feel like that was something that had come into the mainstream and most people were on the lookout for. Like I remember when the whole thing first started, it was kind of like, I don't want to call it regular because it's not the sort of thing that you get used to, but I remember like 5 years ago when it was, Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and the Ferguson riots, it was like, the violence was all blamed on black people and there was no question about it. There was no like agent provocateur. There was no,
Yeah. Yep.
even if people were to come out and say, hey, this is what's happening, no matter, it was still blamed. Whereas
Right.
this time around, like towards the beginning, you started to see that, but people came up with like, nah, here's the video. I see like, here's this person breaking the windows with the auto and so now you got like, now with that coming more into the mainstream, it's on the news and everything else. Now you have a widespread awareness of these are these
How this
agent
thing?
provocateurs who
Yeah.
are trying to do this.
Yeah.
And
And it's
so by the
always
time,
been like this too, and that's the shit about it. It's like we're just now able to see it. It's always been happening.
Right.
right. And I feel like by the time I went outside, it was already, let them know or like take them to the side or whatever, like, we're going to protect the protest kind of a deal.
Right.
So I wouldn't have seen it, especially in broad daylight and especially at an event where the mayor shows up. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, did you see any kind acts by the cops that were out there during the protest? Or like handing out water or anything like that? Nope.
From the NYPD?
I feel like it was very standoffish. It was very standoffish.
Okay.
It was like, especially when we cross the bridge, we get to Foley Square, like you see police officers like on top of the
where the
roofs
other
looking
meeting at?
down and everything like that. And there's that. But also like people were kind of just chilling. Like they were talking amongst themselves, but they're not talking to us. You know what I mean? Like they're talking amongst themselves. They're hanging out. We're hanging out. Like there wasn't much interaction.
Right. Yeah, because I'm definitely going to admit, I don't care for that propaganda because the police will sit there and kneel with protesters, and then an hour later tear gassing them to get them to disperse.
Yep.
Like it's all bullshit.
76. Yo,
That 75-year-old dude?
guys, the specific guy, was kneeling like the day before, and then the day after he pushed that 7-year-old dude down, and he just fucking cracked his skull open. Like the same fucking dude.
Yes.
And the fucking, and of course, the president going to claim the dude's basically trying to say he's a crisis actor or whatever, or trying to say he's a plant. And
He said he was a Antifa member or something.
Even though this
I feel like
dude
that's his
has
favorite word. He says it often enough. It's gonna happen.
it's one of the few things he knows. You know, that's one of the
The
few
few things he
one of
knew.
the few one of the few groups he can name. You know, yeah. What's that? What's that? The kids say Antifa? Yeah, yeah. They're the problem. But I will say, because of the protests, this feels to me different than, not to take anything away from Ferguson or some of the other protests from some years back, but the way this kind of was like a powder keg and it exploded in so many places
Oh
simultaneously.
my God, yeah,
That was such a major thing, and it feels like there's some more of a difference. I mean, think about it. The military, which people have been petitioning them to do this for years. The Navy and I think either the Marines or the Air Force. I think it's the
yep.
Marines. The
Marines.
Marine Corps and the Navy has said that the Confederate flag is now banned from their premises. You can't fly it. You can't
Exactly.
have it on a coffee mug. You can't be a bumper sticker on a shirt. Nothing, and nowhere on any of their
Right.
installations.
Yo,
Why did that take so long? Like, that's crazy,
right. And not to put the NASCAR above them, but NASCAR said it, and that's like the whitest of whitest
dude.
sports ever.
Yeah.
So
NASCAR
I
was the
mean,
last. NASCAR and hockey are like the last bastions of low minority participation. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like one or
right.
two NASCAR drivers that are black. I think there's like one Asian. There was a woman. I don't know if we still have a woman there. I think we
Danica
still have it.
Patrick.
Yeah, there was another one. I think Natron Means was like someone. There was another racer who I think she's in the truck series, or she might be in um, another group. But
There's a
the
black NASCAR racer too.
that's Bubble.
I
Bubble
forget.
Bubba
Wallace.
Wallace, I think.
No,
But
Hamilton. Something Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton, nah, he's not NASCAR. He's
Nah, he's Formula
stock
One.
Formula One.
Formula One. Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
But the fact that we're seeing this stuff happen now, one is proof that they could have been done this stuff, you know.
Right.
But I think the big thing is showing is that, yeah, if they wanted to, they could have been done this. But I think it's
Even
true.
the NFL walking back their statements.
Yeah, well,
I
I
don't
wouldn't
want to
say
hear
the
shit the NFL
NFL.
has to say until they
I
change the
know.
Washington
No,
Redskins name and rehire
No,
Cat.
no, no. I
I
wanted to say
Everything
know.
that
else is Cat.
Somebody is petitioning for that too.
they've been
There's one
petitioning
team.
for it. The mayor of DC, I
Oh
think,
yeah,
is
that's
talking
true.
about it.
I think there was one team, Seattle, who said they were interested in picking up Kaepernick. I don't know how true that is, but I
Well,
saw an article of
the
it.
thing is, I don't believe anything the owners are really saying right now because they've had 4 years to pick Kaepernick up. You have
Right,
people
right.
like, I know a lot of y'all don't follow sports the same way I do, but you have people like Nathan Peterman, who is an awful quarterback, getting a starting opportunity in certain places in the league. Blake Bortles is still out here throwing terrible. There are a number of quarterbacks who just aren't good that Kaepernick is better than, and people try to say it was his performance. You know, the thing is, it had to do with they didn't like the image. One thing,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard, but Monty Jones, he's one of my favorite, reporter. Well, he's not really reporting more, but his favorite sports writer, podcast host. He had a couple shows at ESPN. His whole thing was saying, the NFL acts like it's scared of its racist fans. Like, it doesn't want to stand against its racist fans. Which, I mean, no one would get mad at the NFL other than the racists who are mad about what he's kneeling for. Like, they
Exactly.
try to change the whole narrative. So the NFL, and this is crazy, this is coming from a league that has, allowed a whole murderer to be able to come back and play again after him driving junk led to the death of his teammate. You know, they've had rapists, abusers, a number of
Yeah.
people. A number of people who've done
Knocking,
actual whole
knocking,
crimes.
knocking their wife out of the elevator.
Yeah, like they've looked for ways to try to get so many people back in. What was it? Greg Hardy got a whole nother chance. I think he beat the shit out of his girlfriend, and now he's in the UFC. The problem is they'll figure out a way to get those people back in. And I'm not saying people don't have a chance for redemption, but Colin did nothing legally wrong, did nothing morally
Right.
wrong. Just made some racists feel bad because a man who didn't even say anything at first was refusing to stand for the anthem. Had nothing to do with the flag, nothing military, and they had to change the whole narrative to turn it into that to be able to justify the racism. And they try to say, oh, he's not that good of a quarterback, he's not this, not that. He led his team to a Super Bowl. They didn't win. He led his team to a Super Bowl. He's a good quarterback, and the problem is that the owners can't stand up to their own fans, and they don't want to deal with somebody who only wants to play on their own terms. Because Colin proved it in these workouts and stuff. The last workout he did for them, they had to agree, on the NFL like wouldn't let him have people filming the workout. They wanted him to agree to certain terms that isn't required of other free agents and stuff. And he was just like, nah, we need to do it this. I'll compromise in some places, but we need to do it this way and this way. And they didn't want to, so it didn't happen. But now they're talking about because a number of people are telling them they're sick of this shit. Now they don't want to end up on the wrong side of history, even though they already are.
They live there.
Pretty much. Yeah.
They've been there for the whole time, and you know, like with them and like police forces and stuff like that, for police unions, all of them, all these. Oh, we got a fucking yeah. There's a cannibal right by us. Like all these people who are all these groups making these little platitudes and stuff now. All that stuff is, to me, all that stuff is meaningless. Until there's actual real change. Like until we actually see changes occurring in some form or fashion, all that stuff doesn't matter anything, especially coming from the police. Like, y'all gonna sit there and kneel in solidarity and then, turn around and do the shit that you're doing, and then have, what was it, the Fraternal Order of Police of New York? Had you do crying at a press conference, telling the media portraying them like thugs, generalizing them and stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, you don't get the fuck, get your crying ass out of here.
I was like, oh, what's that? You don't want to be treated like thugs and criminals?
Oh, you know how I feel now. Oh,
that was funny.
the media portrays you poorly. Oh, poor baby. Shut your ass up.
Oh,
Shut your ass up. Ain't nobody trying to hear that shit.
At all. At all.
I love you guys. I spent as much time as I can legally with y'all. I gotta go. I'm out of here.
All right. Love you, Mark. Be safe at work, buddy. See you later.
I will. Y'all have a good one. Deuces.
Yeah, that dude got his whole ass up on there crying, told some, y'all making us look like thugs. They're like we're animals. And then they turn around, put the uniform on, and go beat the shit out of some protesters. Like, come on, get the fuck out of here. You weren't crying about your portrayal when your officers were showing choking Eric Garner on the street and him telling you can't breathe because he was selling some Lucy's. Fuck out of here.
Right. You know what's alarming to me? Like, there's, a couple of things. In addition to the sudden awakening of racism, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is going on. And so it's just like, there's that. But then also, my hometown or my home county, Nassau County in New York, I have a lot of friends who have been going to the protests in, like, Merrick, East Meadow and stuff like that. And you see some of the racist stuff that's going on. Like, you have, like, it really is something out of the 60s. Like, you have white counter protesters, lining up at the gun shop to buy guns, but also spitting on people, screaming at them, screaming at kids. There's a lot of videos circulating where it's crazy. You see the cops like trying to be nice to them and like, treat them
like humans.
Well, it's only going to be for today to the white people. Yeah. Like it's kind of crazy.
Let's treat you with some nuance and some consideration instead of just taking a baton to the back of your head. Like, get the fuck out of here. I mean, like that dude on the bike who started attacking little girls because they were putting up some Black Lives Matter posters.
Yes.
Fuck.
I did not even see that. I didn't see
Dude,
that.
it became a whole thing. Like he was on Park Trail. He was in his little punk ass orange bike helmet and his little tight ass bicycle shorts. And these little girls were just putting up like these memorial posters for George Floyd and stuff. And he gonna start like pushing them and snatching their stuff and tearing it up. These are children, dude.
Wow.
Like these are like 9. I think like between 9 and 12 or something. These are kids.
Yeah.
That's
dude,
crazy.
it got so bad that some people like ran up on this dude, and this is the problem with people run around with information on the internet. They found a whole nother guy who who normally rode the same trail, and happened to be a white guy. They found him on LinkedIn because his stuff was up there, and they started accosting him. Thinking he was the same dude, which if you really looked at it, it's like, okay, that's not the same guy. It was the wrong guy. Wow. They found the right guy, but the wrong dude was getting run up on online. People were in his mentions, like in LinkedIn, all kinds of stuff, tearing him to shreds, and he's just like, hey, it's not me. But they say, the problem is a lie gets them all the way around the world before truth gets a chance to wake up. So dude was getting torn to shreds before he even really had the opportunity to know what the fuck was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Dang.
it's
That's crazy.
yeah. But people been wild. And one thing that you and I talked about, Kim, was the way that humanity's not looked at certain minorities, especially black people, in a lot of ways. Because one of the things we see is these people who think it's okay to like fight kids and spit on people and act all this kind of way. We gotta remember these are the children and grandchildren and maybe great grandchildren of people who used to stand in circles watching a black person be hung from a tree like it was a show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind
That's still
of
taught.
behavior is
Yeah.
taught.
Yeah. Yeah,
When
it's
you're
taught.
taught that people who don't look like you are not human like you don't value, you don't think about the interactions you're having. And the only time people sometimes have to be stopped from doing stuff like that is not from compassion, but they have to experience some sort of force. You know,
Yeah.
like Tyson said, everyone has a plan to get punched in the mouth,
Until they get, yeah.
and
Yep.
Mhm.
people will continue to say stuff like the video of this one woman. She was in a store, didn't even work there. She was accosting this Latina woman, telling her, well, who she thought was a Latina woman, telling her she didn't go back to Mexico and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
This is a Native American woman.
Oh, I seen that,
She's
and she
Yeah.
all in
smacked
her
fire
She
out
face.
of her
she
mouth.
smacked,
Yeah,
yeah, she
she was
smacked
all in her
her,
face and grabbing her arm, being big and bad. But as soon as that woman went, put them 5 fingers across them lips,
yeah.
she stormed out, basically
She
crying
stopped, yep,
herself,
she stormed out
stopped in her
mad, yeah.
tracks.
Yep.
Because
And then
this
she
is
never even apologized. Her husband
her
apologized
husband.
on behalf of her.
Talking about she was
Yeah.
mentally ill and stuff like that. And you gonna get poisoned,
Yeah.
man.
Man,
You drinking
listen.
that dirty water. You could have asked me to boil some water for you if you're thirsty. But
No,
it's
man.
crazy to look at it because people are it's a person who's standing there with the same amount of toes, fingers, limbs, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, who looks exactly like you in a lot of ways overall, except for their skin color. And you think they're less human, or you've been conditioned to feel like they're less human, but
Or you think you have authority over them.
you feel like you feel because you see them as former property, as less human because you have this sense of entitlement that you are entitled to control these situations. So that's where the whole Karen thing comes from. That they feel like this level of entitlement to be able to control minorities in some way because they're not white people, and any group that's not them really, because they'll do it. So because white women they'll do it to men, white men will do it to women. They'll turn around and do it to minorities and stuff much faster, and you'll see. Unfortunately, you see a lot of that. You know, but then they'll play the victim when someone goes upside their head because of how they're carrying on. It's like they need a hard reminder. Like, no, these are people too. You are not in charge.
And the sad thing is, it probably just reinforced their biases even more. The fact that she got slapped in the face.
Yeah,
And she's like, well, that just proves my point. But she's the one
they're all
acting out of fucking line, though. You know what I
right. They're
mean?
all
Right.
thugs.
Like,
I told you they were thugs and animals. Well, you got her face and you grabbed her. Of course, she's gonna strike you. Like, keep
Exactly.
your
Yeah,
hands to
you put
yourself.
your fucking hands on her, and she smacked you, and then that proves your point. Get the fuck out of here.
That's it. They want
fuck
a
a
lot of
point, yo. Like, what? Like,
that's it. A lot
fuck
of
out
people
of
want
here. Like,
no
what you
accountability.
doing?
Right. Put your damn hands on me. Are you fucking kidding me? What gives
And
you
they
the
get mad
fucking
when you get some
authority?
hands back. I'm
The
just giving you your change, sis.
right, the
You paid
unmitigated
for
goal.
this.
I knew y'all were thugs. Fuck out of
Yup.
here.
But you know
Fuck
what,
out of here.
what alarms me about that shit is like, especially seeing some of the shit in the places where I grew up and frequented. It was like there are things. It's one thing that other people think that you're less than, but there are a lot of things that I internalized in the way I moved, the way that I handled things throughout
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
That was like, oh shit.
Yep.
And it's one thing when you internalize that you're not supposed to go certain places, that
hmm
that everybody knows someone who was roughed up by the cops, or like somebody who you can't be in a certain park because you're not a resident in a 97% white neighborhood, like certain shit
yeah,
Yeah.
that goes on, and it's like going back through certain things. It's just like I'm seeing how this has played out throughout my life when all of a sudden it's in front of other people, right? So
hmm
it's just like, but wait a second, like that sort of deference to proximity to whiteness, that sort of deference to right opinions, that sort of deference to sort of, especially in an academic field where if a white person comes in, even if their resume is shorter than yours and says that they know something that you don't know, then it's automatically, oh man, they must know something that I don't know. Like
Hmm.
it's like a knee jerk. It's not even something that I thought about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's that
it's
social
scary.
conditioning. It's a level
Yeah.
of social conditioning where the it's almost like our brains automatically defer to the fact that if someone's in the majority class, that they are better in some way because they're people quote unquote one. You know, like I think about that sometimes. You consider how if in like certain African countries, you will see this among different ethnic groups. Think about the Tutsi and the Hutu from years back. When there's genocide and killing each other, because because of that tribalism, people kind of separate themselves into groups. When like there's this almost like this desire for one to be dominant, not equal or supplemental or anything like that. It's just dominant, and when just on pure numbers alone, when all the people in position of power look like this one group, or the vast majority of them do, it's almost like you subconsciously start to defer, like, okay, I know there's no like actual logical reason for it to be this way other than the numbers, but it's hard for me not to feel this way because you see this, like him said, someone comes in with less experience, but because of the fact that they're there, your brain's like, okay, they have to be here for a reason. It can't be
Right.
just because they're a
Yep.
white person with some knowledge. They got to be an expert, someone that maybe I don't know as much as I do, or maybe they're a little smarter than you, and
Hmm.
that's almost never the truth, you know.
Yeah.
And it kind of it's crazy to me how it goes to it almost goes to our heads almost immediately, and no matter what our parents kind of help instill within us, the simple fact that our parents, one or two of them, tell us one thing, but the opposite is taught to us over and over, basically through example, everywhere else in life by so many more people. It's hard to fight against that initial
Right.
conditioning. Subconsciously, you start to defer that way when you have to actually actively tell yourself, "Nah, that's not the case. I know why it's like this way. My parents told me why it's like this way." But your brain just that in the back of your mind it's just almost like is it supposed to be this way, or why this way, or maybe they should be here because they're actually all more educated like that, when it's like, oh, they didn't even graduate high school but they're my director. What? How is this even a thing? I don't understand this.
Right.
But
But
and
you know
then
what? It's like somebody could tell you something until they're blue in the face. But it's like when you
Until you
experience
experience.
something,
when
Yep.
you
your
Yep.
experience it,
experiences are
yeah,
always going to be louder than
every
what
Yep.
somebody
time,
tells you.
every time,
Exactly.
because kind of how we were talking about, our shortcomings and feelings, how we feel sometimes in the workplace and everything like that. I always feel like
Mm-hmm.
that white supremacy feeds into the imposter syndrome, for me at least, sometimes, because I know that I, working in the corporate world, when you're the only person who looks that way in the room, sometimes you start to
Mm-hmm.
wonder, am I supposed to be in this room? But then you tell yourself, you know what? I fucking know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. There's a reason why I'm here. And there are
Right.
people in that room who know why you're here, but just on that macro
Yeah. And you
level,
work
you're
fucking
just
hard to get
looking
in
at
that
it.
room.
Yeah,
Right.
and probably maybe twice as hard in a lot of cases, but you just look and say, okay, all right, no, I'm supposed to be here. There's definitely a reason why I'm here. You know, I belong in this space, but it's almost like you're not allowed to feel that way by default. you know.
Right.
And I probably won't feel that way about phone until maybe I'm in my 50s or something like that, or older. But I know people. I've talked to some colleagues who are older than me, who sometimes feel the same way, and they're in their 50s and getting close to 60. Like they're like, nah, that feeling didn't really go away, especially when they had to go to a new place. Like where I've been working now, I've been here for 8 years, coming up on 9 years. I've been here for a long time, and I know up until we got bought, I know the vast majority of people I work with and stuff. So the quality of my work and my expertise and all that is known to all those people. But now, because
You got a new company.
we were
Yeah.
bought by another company, and it's way more people, and a lot of people I don't know. It's almost like, damn, do I gotta
Yeah.
start
It's like you
proving
got to
myself in
prove
this way
yourself all
again?
over. Yeah,
Yeah, like
exactly.
start all
This is
over.
all over again.
Because when I first started with this company, there was maybe like 110 people, you know, and then we expanded to like 500 some people. But I was in the company that bought the company, and my department's still small and stuff like that. But now the company we're with, we absorbed is now a 5,000 employee company,
Ooh.
across 17 countries, including, U.S., Canada, and
Yeah, that's way different
Europe,
from
parts of
110
Europe.
people.
Yeah, significantly different. Even when it was around 500 or so, everybody was in the U.S., and most of those people were technicians out in the field. Corporate wise, we probably went up to about 140, 150 people. You know, so we got a mutant in the base. I don't know where y'all at,
Oh, I left.
but the whole the whole thing, it's weird. Like you said, you almost feel like you gotta start proving yourself again because it's just so many more people. Majority of them white. You feel like, all right, I gotta fight to make sure it's known I'm in this space again because I make decent money. I'm in a pretty good spot. Um, and I'm lucky that my director I'm working with now is still currently for the foreseeable future going to be my director because we have a great working relationship. But in a lot of ways, it's like I know I'm encountering more people, and it feels like that whole cycle is gonna start over again.
Mm.
Prove why I'm here. I gotta make sure you know why I'm here. And a lot of it could be just in my head. That's the one thing about racism and other forms of discrimination. That stuff is so insidious, especially when it's systemic. It's so insidious that
Yep.
you don't know if it's actually happening at this moment. Because like
Right.
Right.
I could be in a room full of white people and none of them could be racist. But now I'm sitting there wondering which one of these people call me a nigger in their head.
Hmm.
Like
And then you hold yourself back because of that.
yeah,
Right.
and then you just sitting back thinking, all right,
And then trust is a thing too. It's like you're limited on how much info you want to share with someone because you don't know how they
Mm.
really look at you. That's a big
right,
thing too. It's like
right.
you can't fully be. It's like you can't afford to be fully open.
Yep.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's true.
And it's kind of
You
the same
really
thing.
can't.
And unfortunately for me, y'all might not feel something, but this happens to me with other black people as well. Because when I encounter other black people in the same space, I'm thinking, okay, are I know black people aren't a monolith, but do we at least see things the same way? Or like I said, am I working with MLK or am I working with Ben Carson? You know what I'm saying? Like who is it that's in the office with me now?
Yeah. Or Sheriff David Clark. It could be Sheriff David Clark. You never know. It could
Exactly.
be
We had
Candy
for
Solis.
matter of fact, for example, before the company got bought, we were I was the only black man outside of I was actually the only black man who was a manager or above in our corporate office. And we had one, and then as far as other ethnicities, my director who's Mexican, well, he's not Mexican American, he's Mexican because he's a permanent citizen. Um, he is like the only non-white director as far as our corporate office is concerned. Everybody else was primarily white men, a few white women. You know, so at one point, getting this for acquisition, a younger black guy was hired as a project manager, for our strategic group. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, another black person. You want to see more people who look like you. For some white people
Yeah.
may not understand this because they're used to seeing white people all the time.
Right.
This with um, with us, and I can imagine just with women, period, regardless of race or ethnicity, you are you typically get more comfortable when you see someone who's at least looks like you or similar to you. you
Ooh.
know, so they hired this younger black guy. He's probably around my age, a little bit younger than me and stuff. And the whole time I was like, okay, cool. We got another dude, from, who's actually I'll be working closely with in some ways, blah. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, all right, so I got to let me figure out what kind of person I'm dealing with, or whatever. And we started talking about some things, and you try to be careful about certain topics and stuff you bring up in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think like we have talk about sports and stuff like that, and a few other things, and some other stuff like talking. So later on, like we're talking more and more over like over a couple of weeks, or whatever. Just like whenever it means whatever, just casually conversing, and eventually, we talk like I think something comes up about matter of fact, gun ownership. Honestly, like something came up. I think there was like a gun show in town or whatever like that. We started talking about that, and he's like, yeah, I have one. I haven't gone shoot in a while and stuff, but I gotta, I gotta, get make sure my um, permit is up to date, because I don't know about you, but I feel like black people need to be on here to protect ourselves. I was like, oh, word, okay, okay. I was like,
So we have that in
I
common.
was like,
Yeah.
okay, there's a little bit of common and stuff. Like he's like, yeah, because you know when I'm not worried about when it comes to being I'm not worried about people who look like me necessarily. With everything that's going on, you don't know who's out here. Blah blah. Blah. It was another thing. Our conversation going from there. We realized we both had an aha moment. Like we were on the same page. Like, okay, cool, cool. We can. And we're going like you might root for the wrong
Yeah, you can
sports
build
team,
upon
but
this,
yeah, we
right?
can like. So we kind of like got along in that way, and a lot of our stuff was at least what I consider the important like base tenets of points you should agree on, primarily people's humanity and rights and stuff like that. We were pretty much on the same page. We're like, okay, cool. Like I can see that. Like, I'm fine with no someone. Every black person has got to agree with me 100%. That'd be weird. And no one has everyone has everything the same. But there's a level of things that we got some cannibals going up. There's a level of certain levels you get to that I just can't compromise on this. Like, if we don't agree on certain things, damn. If we don't agree on certain things, then I don't know if I can trust you right there because there's just certain things that it's your humanity. Like, if it deals with
Yeah.
your humanity in a certain way, if you're against any people's like certain rights like that, if you have issues with the LGBT community, if you don't understand intersectionality, just stuff like that, then I just this isn't a agree to disagree thing. Like I can't rock with you in that way. Like there's a certain level of
Yeah, there are
understanding about
certain
certain things you
things.
have to have. If you tell me you don't like grits or something like that, that's fine. We can get along. Or you're like,
Right.
or if you're like, man, I hate smooth peanut butter, but crunchy is the best. I'm like, you're weird. You should like all peanut butter, but it's fine. It's okay. Or if you prefer Adidas over Nikes, that's also weird, but there's nothing wrong with that. You can certain things. If what you like and dislike doesn't stop anyone else from being able to live the way they have the right to live, fine. Those are just personal preferences and stuff. But when we start delving into these gays or those trans people or misgendering and stuff like that, then I'm just going to distance myself from you. If it's out of ignorance and you can kind of are willing to hear or accept information, then we can maybe continue to talk a little more. But outside of that, I don't know, man. Like I can't dedicate my time, trying to go back and forth with somebody who just is arguing against base humanity. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, true, true. Well, going back to what you said about imposter syndrome, I thought about like something that I experienced on the other side, which happens sometimes in academia. So it's kind of like if nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about, you are now the expert. So
Pretty
it's
much.
like
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
that's it. And so like I've had situations where, either I'm working a case or, oh, as a matter of fact, perfect example. I was working a death row case for an incident project. And so short story is this guy, he was involved in a robbery, guy dies, and he didn't pull the trigger, but he's still on the hook for the murder, right?
Felony murder rule,
So
yeah.
right. So he gets convicted, and so they have to do what's called an allocution. So the allocution is basically where you go in front of the jury and you say, hey, here are my mitigating circumstances, which just means, the reasons why I did this. I had a rough upbringing, I was hungry, I needed to steal that bread, this is what happened, and I didn't actually mean to kill this guy, or like you're basically pleading your case directly to the jury, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's doing this, and so I took one look at it and I was like, this is a black guy, this is African American English. And it's kind of like, well, how do you know that? I was just like, well, at the time I didn't have the vocabulary to say I knew, so I said I didn't know, but I knew. So what happened was they set up the classes into the class, because it's a big class of like 30 people for an internship, right, for this case. So they set us up into different groups to work on different things. So there are a few parts of an allocution that make it successful. You know, the apology, the sincerity, there's a few other things. The narrative. Your narrative has to look a certain way. It has to be, it has to flow in one direction. And sometimes as I would find out later, with African American speech, when we construct a narrative, we put background in the middle. So it's like, so I went to the store one day, and mind you, I had also done this thing in the past, and this, and this, and that's how I got there. But anyway, I was at the store one day, and then this happened. So the narrative kind of jumps around sometimes. Mm-hmm. So you see that with him as well. And so I'm the only black person in there, except there's one black law student, because we're working with them. And so nobody gets the narrative. Everyone's just like, oh, this narrative doesn't make sense. He doesn't make an apology, whatever. And so I'm the only one in the room who raises her hand and says, well, actually, when he says, I take full responsibility for my part in this crime, what he's saying is, I apologize. That's where my bad and my fault comes from. Mm-hmm. But for a white speaker, for mainstream American English, it's like you have to actually say the word apologize. You have to actually say, I'm sorry. Right. He didn't say that. So they're like, there's no sincere apology here. So it's just me to say this. And so I get put with this cross-cultural communication group, and it's basically just me. It's basically just me. I have to figure this out within the next week when we meet with the law department. And if I don't have my shit, because this person is actually on trial waiting for us. So if I don't have my shit, that's it. So I'm like spending nights in the library. I'm looking through, like trying to find stuff, and it's just me and the one black law student. And I'm like, okay, well, I found this stuff on complex.com. She goes, well, I hate to break it to you, but it's one of those things where if you don't find something that white people said and acknowledge, then it does not count. This blog does not count. You need to find a journal, an academic journal, where somebody says this thing. So I found one journal and one article by one person where it's just like you have this whole, scenario about how an apology works in African American English, which is, sorry didn't do it. If you were really sorry, you would take responsibility for what you did, which is why he said what he said. So
kind of like how someone's like, I don't say thank you, but if I say appreciate it, I mean thank you.
Right, exactly. And so that was kind of lost in translation. So I came in that day like 3 hours before it was due, like, oh my gosh, I found it, here's how this works. But the problem with that is, as much as I love to tell that story, because that story actually worked out, the problem with that is that now, from then on, I'm the point person for this. And I'm still a student. I'm not even, this is my second master's degree. But the previous one, I was doing Jamaican Patois. I don't really know that much about African American English, apart from the fact that I speak it as a native speaker. Right. And I only speak New York English. So I've had cases, unfortunately, where, I've looked at things that, I say, oh, well, nobody says this. This isn't how the language works. But that's how it works in Miami. And that's where the case is. Right. So, so you know what I'm saying? Like, so it puts me in a position where, on one hand, I do want to boss up and take on this responsibility and, get rid of this imposter syndrome and, girl boss and all of that shit. But on the other hand, if I'm doing this with no experience, that means that I could be putting myself or other people in some really shitty positions. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But that was part of the reason why I went back to do the PhD, because I was just like, I want to know what I'm doing and I want to do it well, so that if I get called back for another case, especially a death row case, I'm not saying that the language works a certain way and then it doesn't, and then somebody loses their life because I didn't have my shit together. You know what I mean?
So that sounds like a lot of pressure.
it's high stakes. Yeah. So I was just like, all right, well, on one hand, there's the imposter syndrome of like, oh, I feel, the white supremacist kind of thing where as the only black person in the room, or one of 2 or 3 black people in the room, or the entire department, it's just like I have to make sure that I polish my spine before I go in, and I stand in the things that I'm saying, because people are going to shit test me regardless. You know, they're like, oh well, actually, they're butt actually you to death, but
Mm-hmm.
but like it's. But on the other hand, you also have that sort of like, oh well, now you're the expert, and that means that people aren't checking up on you as much. So when
Yeah.
someone comes in to give a talk on another Caribbean Creole, and people are asking him questions, some are shit test questions and some are other questions, but it's just, oh well, you're talking about the syntax of how this thing works. Does it work like this? Have you tried this? Have you considered this? And he must have said, I can't, I didn't, but I'll get back to you with that. And he's taking notes, which is a good thing to do. But you could tell that he was in a similar position, another black guy, of course, but he's in a similar position where people just didn't ask him shit. They didn't challenge him on shit. They didn't ask him anything. They were just like, all right, well, if that's how you say it works, that's how it works. And so, like, he gets up in front of people, and now it almost gives off this thing like, oh, well, I'm not sure he fully knows what he's talking about, or, oh, I don't know if he's such a great student. But really, it was that he just wasn't really handled properly, because people were just like, oh, well, this is black stuff. I'm not black. I don't know how this works. So you're on your own.
Yeah.
Right. Which, hold on. Hey, where are you at?
Playing The Witcher.
Oh, you done left it. I didn't even realize you left the whole game.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny you said that, like, trying not to go too far out of tangent, but this can about to be a rabbit hole. Talking about the only black person in the room. Have you guys experienced that whole, like, since you're probably one of the only black people in the room, that when some stuff happens to black people or black people do something, they come looking to you for answers?
They expect you, they expect you to have answers for
them. Listen.
Yeah. You are now the professional on the matter.
Like when Barack Obama won his second term, you show up in the office,
and
like,
also you have just became a monolith too in that same second.
Yeah.
As well.
Did you hear about that black guy that killed those 2 police officers? What about him? Why did you think he would do something like that?
Think about that.
Right. Oh, Christopher Columbus?
How Columbus is a
He
monster?
said that's not even black people stuff.
Right. Like, dude, that's American history. What are you talking about?
That is false American history. Right.
Dude, it happens.
You should have made his brain explode when you said, yeah, blacks came to America first, and then he probably would be like, really? I want to hear more about this.
Oh man!
You do realize like black people were the original settlers, right? Jonestown was actually really black
about slavery, and then everybody in the class turns around and looks at you because you're the only black kid.
Right. Like I got lucky that during school I was primarily around other black people, But at work, this other thing. It's either if it's something entertainment related, they come to you. Like, why am I in the? Granted, I may have been the right person to come to for a number of reasons, but when there was this one guy I used to work with, another black guy, and anytime, like when they found out he could rap, every time there was some sort of like meeting or like we had some social or something, they were like, "Hey Richard, they're like, hey man, could you do a little something and do something like that?" And we just look at each other like, really? Just because one of the black guys on here gonna be here rapping for y'all? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like we don't come and ask you for some country music stylings or nothing like that. Like, come on, man. But it's crazy. Like, you're automatically like that. I told
one dude at GE that I used to rap, and oh my god, like when we got around other people, he used to bring that shit up. I'm like, wow.
But you know what happened?
Like, it was a lifetime ago.
I blame you because now he probably thinks all black people rap. I told
Well,
you all of them can rap. I told you all of them can rap. And if they can't rap, they're
all
a
I did
disappointment.
was reinforce. All I did was reinforce the stereotype. So now he knows
Exactly. And he was like, you
all
know
black
what?
people rap.
I told you all those blacks can rap. It's
Exactly.
genetic.
No, he could have said, "I knew you used to rap." This is all he had to say because he probably thought it anyway.
Probably thought it. But it's crazy because that shit happens like all the time in some form or fashion, you know. And it's aggravating because sometimes you're like, look, man, I don't have an opinion on this thing, or if this is a well tread topic, but every time something happens to a black person, or black community, they come like white people come to the black person they know, no matter where they're from, they could be the most uninformed,
And that can
and
be a gift and a curse.
yeah,
Well,
they
I mean, it
expect
could
you
be,
to know about it. Like
yeah,
me personally,
right.
I'm the wrong
But it
person
could,
to come and look for that kind of information because one, I know what you're talking about and I know what I'm about to tell you, and I'm not going to say it in a way that's going to make you feel good. You know,
right.
oh, oh, you hear about the Mike Brown? Why do you think you do something like that? Oh, because a racist white cop was accosting him, and he probably decided to defend himself when the dude was beating him over the head.
Exactly.
You know,
Ah.
but
And
you
that's
got
the
to
thing.
walk
Like
that
sometimes they
line.
come
But
to you, and you could use it as a teachable moment, or you could just be over it. And
yeah, but
I
Duke,
was over
man,
it the last time it happened to me. I was
shit,
over it. Like, no, we was talking, we was all sitting around having drinks, you know, as you do in any respectable linguistics department. Three linguists appear, and then a bottle of wine manifests between them.
whole
So we're
bottle.
all here after an event, and so we're talking, and this guy was, I forget what we were talking about, but he turns to me and is just like, yeah, and that's what happens to black people, right? And I was like, oh no, see, we're not doing
And he
this.
probably gave you a
We're not
shitting
doing
grin
this.
too, right?
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, nah, see, we're not doing this. Right now, I'm having a beer. Right now, I'm having a beer. So that's what we're going to do. We're not doing this.
right,
It's
I left it
exhausting.
there.
It's
It's
it
exhausting.
is
exhausting because
exhausting,
then what
man.
happens is I'm supposed to explain for this for the next 3 hours. All this generational trauma. I got to go through slavery in the U.S., slavery on the islands. I got to go through colonialism. I got to go through people dying at the hospital. I got to go through everything so that he can sit there and look smug and talk about how fucking woke he is.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I figure, and I'm not saying everybody's like this because there are a lot of people who just generally don't know. But the problem is when you're one of the few black people, if non-black people, primarily white, but a lot of non-black people were more comfortable with just one talking to each other and talking to black people. Period. I feel like we probably wouldn't be in a lot of spaces. But the problem is a lot of people are looking for one or two things. They're either looking for confirmation of their biases, or they're looking for you to use to expend some labor and teach them, you know, otherwise. Which
Right,
I'm not here
Yes.
to be a teacher. Like there are very few people I
right.
will, you know, make an effort for. Because like I can, and we've talked about this before, but if I can figure out pretty early or make an assumption on what your intent is, that'll dictate where I decide to go with it. Because I can
Yeah.
tell there are a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people online, and I often refuse
You don't
to
want to waste your
engage
energy,
people.
man.
Yeah, I refuse to
Yeah.
engage some people online in a lot of ways because one, you can't always tell people's intent, and there's a lot of trolls. But if we're talking about in
Yeah.
person, I can usually tell within minutes, sometimes seconds, where this conversation will go. Where if they ask you something, and you know what, I'll indulge you, I'll give you a thoughtful, actual answer. If they come back with but such and such or but such, a lot of times they're trying to reinforce what they already believe and not understand what that they either could be wrong or really to learn from that moment. They're not trying to actually learn anything. They're just trying to have a discussion to start so they can either say, "Oh, I beat this lib," or I told this black guy today," or whatever else, you know, to
Yeah, I
reinforce what they
own it.
already believe. You know, I own this guy, so
Yeah.
they want to convince themselves that they're right instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? I don't really know all these. I really don't know black people like that. I know I have these assumptions and stuff. So let me actually talk to some of them as if they're with their people, and let me actually listen to them, because when when a lot of people start to question and then they come back with a challenge every time instead of absorbing what you're saying or actually having like a constructive conversation, kind of like how we're having, where It's a back and forth, and you say, okay, I understand that. Well, I saw it this way, and so that instead of like, well, what about this? Instead of becoming what about isms and you know about y'all protesting, but what about black on black crime or the Irish were the real slaves or black people sold other black people into slavery. When they start coming with those all talking points, it usually happens very quickly. And I'm just like, you know what? You got it. And I just disengage. I'm like, nah, I'm good on that. Like, I'm not going to expend my energy to teach people. I'm not a teacher. And there's a lot of resources from people a lot smarter than I am and a lot more, who've done a lot more research and stuff than I have into this thing, who've done real work into the space, whose information is there to consume freely if you just look it up on Google and stop getting your
Right.
information from Fox News and Stormfront. But
A Breitbart.
or Breitbart. But it's you can't expect a person from a particular group can't expect another person to represent their group and provide the mental labor in teaching at all times when like I'm not going to sit there and ask him to explain to me why women deserve certain rights in this way, or what's going on with black women and stuff like that, because it's not her job. And there are a lot of people who have made this their work to say it as easily digestible as possible that I can easily go find if I don't understand. But that requires me doing some work, which is very little as far as actually just typing in and looking at sources and not just looking at Wikipedia real quick. But nobody wants to do that. And I'm not going to expend my effort in to try to tell people different over and over again, because the people who really want to know, they'll either ask you once and they ask you where they can go find more information, because that's you can tell. I can tell when people are more sincere about something. They'll ask you where they can find out instead of asking you to explain everything or just get it from you because that's the easiest.
But you know what? I find that I noticed that people are genuine when they don't even ask you where to find out. They went and found something, and then they'll ask you about what they
Exactly.
found.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they'll,
Exactly.
like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
asking
yeah.
about
That's
what they
true.
found, and then you could point them in the right direction. Like
Yeah.
it is a case by case thing. Like with that guy, it was a blatant virtue signifying moment. Like that was like
Yeah, we got
specifically
cannibal down here.
tell your story. But
Yeah.
like but like when it comes to like a genuine person, hey, I heard this was going on. Like I looked on this and it says this, this, and this. Like, is that the right thing? Because that seems weird to me. Like that's a conversation I can have.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I've had that someone say, "Hey, I've seen this, and I don't understand this. Whatever. Does this make sense or whatever? Or, you know, but if it's just coming, you can tell when they just heard the random dog whistling talking voice, or when they've actually heard, actually seen something that may not be from those particular sources, like your Breitbarts and Fox News and stuff like that. Yeah, in a case like that, yeah, it's definitely more sincere because they went and actually found some information and are wondering, okay, is this actually real? Is what
Right.
I'm seeing? Is this what you've experienced type thing? Oh, we got a mutant over here. Wait,
Okay.
I'm low on. I am low on arrows. Yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, like I said, we kind of went down that bit of a
Rabbit
tangent,
hole.
but yeah,
I'll
definitely that
find back up.
tangent. Yeah, nothing wrong with that, but you know, oh, that nigga gray as hell. Um, circling back around because one of the things we were talking about, how much I'm hoping that a lot more of this results in some real change. Like I'm really hoping we see more
Me
real
too.
change.
Me too.
Like we said,
Yeah.
NASCAR and to a lesser extent NFL. I
And it's
mean,
and it's like protesting on a global scale now. It's not even like
at the
in the
same time
U.S.
too, yeah.
Right. But it's
Yeah.
about the same thing. Like people in the UK are protesting Black Lives Matter. People
Shout out
in
John
what
Boyega.
was it? Yeah. And where else was it?
Germany had a huge like my homeboy is he's stationed over in Germany right now, and they had like this huge like massive turnout. They said it was like the largest protest outside of the U.S. Like huge over in Germany.
I heard they had a protest in Jamaica.
Yeah,
It was
They
somewhere
protesting
else.
out.
Yeah, we protesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's real. And I'm hoping that we see more substantial change by the way, because for example, where Breonna Taylor was killed, even though they still haven't arrested those police that I know of,
The cops, yeah,
as
but
of right
they
now, it
made a
might be
law.
different, but they are moving to make no-knock warrants illegal. You know, which a no-knock warrant should have never been allowed in the first place.
Right.
You're talking about where warrant,
And why
people
is
with regular warrants
lynching
get stuff wrong and stuff like that, and you're going to say, okay, we're going to let the police go up to a house. There's no checks and balances to make sure they're even in the right place, but you just let them kick down the door and start shooting because they think they're at the right place. Like no knock warrants have gotten people killed, and they weren't even at the right. The police weren't even at the right address.
location? Yeah, and I think the person they were looking for was already in jail, if I remember
With
correctly.
Breonna Taylor, yeah, the person they were looking for was already in custody.
What the fuck, dude? Like, what the entire fuck?
You
Yeah,
know
and
what I think,
that
and
report was
I don't mean
trash.
to be that guy, but I feel like because you know how many people have to sign for a fucking warrant. Like
Exactly. Yeah, he have to.
I don't think there was a
Does he have to
mistake
go
at
to a
all.
judge for that?
No,
Yeah, or
you gotta.
DA.
No,
You gotta go
the
to the
no, no,
DA.
the DA
Or
has to do the same. It's the same process for a no knock warrant, though. They still have to sign off on
yeah,
their stuff in the same way. The only difference between a no knock and a regular one is that they just don't have to announce themselves before they come kicking in the door. You know,
that's the
they
thing.
still have to
But
go to a
it's like,
DA or a judge to get the actual warrant.
but you know how many people have to sign that? Like, there were no mistakes about that address. I feel like just like how you're seeing, Chicago had the torture houses, and
Oh my god, yeah,
like this guy had
those
a
black
history
sites.
of like, yeah, like brutality and all this other stuff. I think sometimes folks, they get a warrant, they have an excuse to go out and do these things. So they go out and say, all right, well, we're going hunting tonight. And if
Right.
anybody
Yeah.
asks, well, then it's a no knock warrant. But oh man, we were at the wrong house. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And
This is my
Sorry,
chance
that's
to play my
sorry through a
favorite TV
flashbang
character.
your sorry through a flashbang your baby's crib, and she's probably gonna be deaf and blind forever. But oh well. Like, come on,
yeah,
man.
basically. And it's just
I
like
get
the
to.
warrant will cover us, the union will cover us, and that's it.
I got this warrant now. I get to go play some real life Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like
And,
that's how some people think like that, and I feel like that might be the case.
yeah.
I don't know, like
Uh,
that's how I feel.
But there's a level of lack of accountability, and this one thing I don't understand about, and not to go down this rabbit hole again. I don't understand how people are so against accountability for the public people in the public sector. Like you should want the most accountability from anybody that your taxes are paying to employ. You are
Oh
involuntarily
man,
employing these
dude,
people in this
I had
way,
a deep,
but people
I had a
fight
deep
against it.
conversation. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I had a deep conversation about this, and when we were talking about it, I realized I guess it was more philosophy than anything. But apparently, my philosophy was I felt like anytime that you designate a group of people who have power over the common people, like we're the common people, or like, and you got a police force, they should be held to a higher standard because of the responsibility and the power that they have, because they can abuse power. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, say that if you catch a cop um,
And
doing
derelict their
something he's
duty.
not supposed to do, he should have harsher punishments than a citizen does because
Yes.
he has power over citizens. And I was debating this with like two people, and we were talking about this for like 3 hours or whatever. And one guy was like, "Well, I don't think cops should be held to a higher standard than regular civilians because they're just people too." And I'm like, "Yeah,
All
but you're giving a
corporations are
badge
people
and a
head
power,
ass.
right?" And I was like, "That makes no sense because one, like, if a regular civilian goes to court and then the cop goes to court and there's a dispute, the system is more likely to believe the cop than a civilian. So the scales have already been tipped.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. And two, it's like, why is it that if I assault Lex, I'm just assaulting Lex, but assaulting an officer has a harsher punishment than me assaulting another civilian.
Right.
So if you're telling me that if I assault an officer and it weighs more, then that cop should weigh more if he breaks the law because you're holding it to a higher standard. So why is it that they should be susceptible to the same punishments? I feel like it should be harsher because
They should, because they
They
have
have the
gone.
power.
They should have gone through the training, you know,
Exactly.
for this to have some greater understanding. They're required to have a greater understanding of the law, even though time and time again it shows they don't, because there are a lot of officers who
No, they only
attempt
have
to.
8 weeks of academy training, and then you're a
Yeah,
cop.
but the thing is, they'll even attempt
To me, that's another thing that's ridiculous.
they'll attempt to enforce things that aren't on the books. You know, like they'll arrest people
Or
for
they
stuff
have
that's not actually illegal in a lot of places. And
right.
what I agree in this way. I don't understand how is it that they are attempting to equip the police in similar ways as the military outside of explosives. I don't think about it.
Dude,
They're basically running
oh
around
my
in armored
god.
APCs. They have a lot
Yeah,
of times automatic weapons stuff, but they're equipping them in similar ways, but refuse to hold up to the same level of accountability. I think about the military,
exactly.
and Ed can probably tell you better than this. There's a level of accountability required that's the military is held to before soldiers are even allowed to engage in combat. Like
Right.
if and they're
Why is
they're
it okay
they're in
for
another
a
country.
police department to have a tank?
Who needs a fucking tank? Like, what are
Right.
you using that shit for? Like, whose business is this? Like, where are you going with a fucking tank?
Right.
Why is that
Why?
okay?
How is
I
that
don't
okay?
get.
Like,
Yo,
I think about. Have you seen those? But think about
what
those.
situation requires this?
Like, why are you driving through the city and an armored people carrier, basically an APC that can withstand certain things that Americans aren't allowed to buy? They're treating
Right.
Chicago like it's Fallujah during the second Desert Storm. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
Like,
it makes no. Yo, that makes no
but
sense.
there's
And
way less
then it's what.
accountability though. Because think about it. Like,
And yeah,
hold
exactly,
on.
exactly.
And how long were you in basic training? So 2.5 months, and then you had additional training for like everything, and you're non-combat, but you had stuff from conflict resolution to everything from the steps that you had to use before, like using weapon, all kinds of stuff. And you are NCO, right? Cop, right? But right, but you are also not in a position to engage the populace in that way. So
And you
there,
probably still have more training than a cop. I feel like.
I'm just thinking about, dude. There's the military puts people in a place where you have to have a certain level of fitness. Your eating has to be somewhere. You got to pass certain physical tests regularly to be deemed fit. Where, well, a lot of times with police, you pass that POPAT one good time,
Oh
and
shit! Oh shit! Lex, watch out!
ah,
Sorry,
but how
y'all.
many let's see, yeah, the meat Legos are after us again. I still don't understand this enemy, the worm. But yeah, they're compare like with the military, how many fat soldiers do you see? Fat active duty soldiers do you see? Rarely any. That'd be like that'd be like fat officers or something like that. You know, right? Exactly. They're gonna make sure you are physically fit for duty, right? And in the police force, most police forces, you pass the pope at one good time, and you never have to do it again. How many overweight police officers have we seen? Too many. Way too many. Oh, you got a six leg coming after you too, right? But the thing is, they are put out on the street after a small amount of training, you know, which typically isn't enough. And then, unlike you think about with the military with soldiers, they're trained to do, they're trained in specializations, right? So you have not everyone's going to be a medic. Not every one of them is going to be a an engineer, a combat engineer. Not every one of them is going to be a marksman like that. You take police, you expect them to be able to do CPR and stuff to hold certain things down. You have them showing up for like health checks and crises and stuff like that. All these things they're not equipped for, and then you wonder why some of this stuff goes on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Right. I definitely think there should be more stringent psych evaluations for cops.
Yeah.
Um, right.
Nope.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But you know what, too? They don't pay these teachers enough. They don't pay these teachers
Yeah, they
enough. And
yeah
so
they do.
everybody
They do.
leaves. You have a big brain drain because everyone's, I'm not, that's a part of the reason I don't want to teach. Like,
Yeah.
for $20,000 a year, and I got to buy my own supplies, and I got to, nah, man.
Yeah, it is stressful.
One thing is, and even too with police, they don't pay police enough to put them in certain situations. They don't train them well enough, and they don't pay them all. Like I think in New York, police start with like 40 something thousand, and then after 5 years, they can make I think 84,000 a year or something like that. Which sounds like a
For
lot of money,
police
but then you get
officers?
yeah, but it sounds like a lot, but yeah,
Yeah,
in
I
New
didn't
York,
think it was that
not at
much.
all. No, no. $84,000 to be a police officer after 5 years in New York is not a lot of money.
No.
So they're underpaid, but then the department itself is overfunded to me. Police in general
Yeah,
because
no, it is,
all the
dude.
equipment
Because
goes,
like this,
all the money goes to
Yeah,
equipment,
tank
but
money.
not it doesn't. Yeah, it goes to tanks and guns, so it doesn't go to training. It doesn't go to
right.
proper stock evaluations. It doesn't go to accountability measures. Like a lot of stuff, it just
I
doesn't
seen
go to.
I seen where like there's a bunch of people getting mad about why y'all want to defund the police. Then when y'all call them, they're not gonna
Defund,
exist or
not
whatever.
disband, you
Yo,
morons.
exactly. But the budgets on the police departments, because I was reading something about it the other day, like they have more money combined than it's so much money. I forget how many organizations like in the city, like education, something or other in the city. It's like their budget is more combined than all of these things. It's like they do not need as much money as they get.
Dude,
It's
one of
like
one of the
ridiculous.
resolutions was like, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember if it was NYPD or somebody, but was talking about like just got a resolution to either they're trying to defund them by like $6 billion or something like that. I'm like, how do you have that much? Like,
Yeah.
and where is it going? Because it's not going to training these officers properly. It's going to tanks. Yeah. But the thing is again, just like corporations are probably getting filtered towards the top and everything, but one of the big problems is not enough training, over militarization, and I can't remember where I heard this, but it was actually a really good point. Um, the demagoguery of the police. You're basically turning the police into like these heroic figures when it's really occupation. Granted, a dangerous occupation, but after, especially with 9/11, it's even harder to talk about holding police accountable and stuff like that because people have basically turned them into these they do hero worship on the police and stuff like that, and no one will get for holding them accountable, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Like you don't see enough of it. Accountability, and people fight against it so hard, and their first thing is always, oh, as soon as you say anything negative about police, well, what you do if the police weren't here or that, they always
Yeah.
go zero sum. It's either all or none. It's like, oh, so
Yep.
either I gotta take these potential for abuse or be able to live in safety. Like, come on, it doesn't have to be either or.
Right.
Especially like, why is it always that the automatic? If all these cops are good, like you say, why is that the automatic thing? The automatic response. And two, They never talk about dereliction of duty because what was it? In Buffalo, two officers got held accountable for pushing that 75-year-old man down. Right? They got in trouble,
Right.
and because they were suspended without pay, they weren't fired at the time. They were suspended without pay. 57. I feel like I'm getting. I want to say I'm getting the number right, but 57 of the police on the special task force on their emergency response team resigned from that team. They didn't stop being police officers. They resigned from that team out of
That
solidarity for their fellow
particular team.
officers. Yeah, for that particular team,
Wow.
out of solidarity with their fellow officers. I'm like, so
Yeah.
you do that out of solidarity, but when people want to hold y'all accountable to do your damn jobs, y'all have a conniption. Y'all have a damn hissy fit and then quit.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. Oh my God.
yeah.
I
Right,
can't tell you how many times I got upset when this dude kneeled on George Floyd's neck for like 8 minutes until he stopped moving, and they're like, "But did he die from asphyxiation though? Like, what does the examiner say? What did the examiner?" I was like, "Are you fucking watching the fucking video? Are you fucking kidding me? What did he die for?" And then they came out with this shitty report. It's like he died from COVID-19 and from complications of him kneeling on him. That's not what killed him. I'm like, are you fucking killing?
right.
Yo, it pisses me off. It pisses me off so much, man. It just pisses me off.
But then they get mad if you turn around and tell them, well, let me kneel on your neck for 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And they're like,
Oh,
don't take it that way.
oh no, yeah, they got the fucking George Floyd challenge. These racist white people doing the George Floyd challenge where they're like kneeling on people's neck. I'm like, this is a thing?
Right. And that
Yeah.
goes, think about that goes back to like we talked about where they're not seeing black people as human. Because when that white woman I think was in Minneapolis as well was killed by that black police officer, there was no challenge named after her for people being shot by a police or anything. But you don't see stuff like that when white people get killed by police. One,
Right.
they always want to say, well, you don't see us marching for that. More white people get killed by police than the black ones. Then why aren't you upset? You're mad that we're mad about this, but you're not mad about that.
You know, I was just thinking about that. Like, where is the
Right.
All Lives Matter crew
They don't
when
When
exist. they
they
don't.
don't exist.
It's
They're nothing. It's not an
it's
organization.
like
It's just a
where
saying.
right. It's just like
It's
where
nothing.
are folks that say that shit? Like, where was the NRA when Philando Castile gets shot?
because think about what was
Where
it when
was
the post nightclub? Where was All Lives Matter then? Nowhere. Nowhere.
no
There's
place?
no
Like
lives
every
matter with
all
it.
lives matter until you
Until
know
black
what I'm
people
There
say
saying?
is
something.
Like
there's no it don't fucking exist. It kills me, man. It kills me. It don't fucking exist.
right. Right. Like
All
I
Lives
just
Matter and Blue Lives Matter both came from the same place. They hate for black people to point that something's wrong in this country.
Yeah, it's just an anti-protest to a Black Lives Matter protest. It don't fucking exist.
And it's
right.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on,
Or,
man. Believe that.
dude, it's
Yeah.
just like no, it's just like this one. You had this one where some people went and sprayed BLM and Black Lives Matter and Black
On
Women and stuff
graves.
on gravestones. I'm like, ain't no black people run up in no cemetery defacing gravestones. No black person
Right.
did that at all.
It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god.
Right.
Yeah. Yo, this sounded like a damn Morty rant on fucking Rick and Morty,
Yo,
man.
yo, tired.
Oh man.
Uh huh.
Those
Hmm.
Muslims.
Oh my god. Oh
Those
my god.
Muslims.
Yo, yo,
I
you
mean,
sound like it, yo. I believe it.
I mean, but I mean that's that. The problem is again with people, they're trying to be, they want to say something, but they're not worried about being correct or accurate or anything like that. They just want to be able to say something and repeat, be like parrots and repeat these ridiculous talking points just to reinforce stuff they either believe or stuff they don't even really care about. You know, like think about like we talked. I think we talked about before that woman who started that feminine product company, and
Oh, honeypot.
she's yeah, she started
Oh
Honeypot
yeah.
and had a nice commercial about one inspired black girls and some white people, white men who never thought about feminine products. They don't give a damn about feminine products. Had to get up in the conversation with some, why just black girls up? This product's terrible. I'll never use it again. Like, dude, we know you're a man. You don't even worry about the product. You're just trying to get you're just trying to, repeat this racist nonsense just to reinforce what you already believe, or just to stir shit up. Because there are some people who just want to be provocative and stir shit up and don't actually believe anything. Every time,
Yeah. Yeah.
at
Right.
all.
Nothing at all.
Or like, yeah, even the expression "buying black." So it's like, oh, it's fuck everybody else.
Yeah,
I ain't got nothing to do with that.
it's like, oh,
Kobe. Oh, hot sauce. Oh yeah. That
hot
one. Yep.
sauce.
And that was years ago. Like a decade ago.
I mean, that if you really think about it, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I would say if you really think about that, a lot of that goes right back to slavery in a way, because they're used to taking black people's labor and benefiting from free and not actually paying into or paying for it. You know, like I said, black people built this country in a lot of ways. From literally built this country just through the labor. Promote everything from textiles to crops and agriculture. And then now they just say they'll just co-opt parts of Black American culture and sprinkle in some of black other parts of Black diaspora. Some out in the Caribbean culture and stuff like that, and either you have to force them or basically give them no excuse why they can't credit black people for all these things, or they'll just say instead of attributing it to blackness, they'll just attribute it to a black person. Oh, we like, yeah, we did like basketball this way, but specifically because of Michael Jordan, oh, not because Michael Jordan was a black guy and black people made, basketball what it is. Thinking about what most major sports were like before black people got involved, completely different. Completely different. But the same thing with music. A lot of stuff that we've done. Music is not attributed to black people or it's been co-opted. A lot like one of the biggest thieves, thieving white men, Elvis Presley, is seen as a musical genius, even though he straight stole music from black folk. You know, it's a continual cycle of black contributions being basically taken for free. Like no credit being given, no money being paid, nothing being paid. I mean, one of the latest example was, and this is on a smaller scale, little black girl started this little dance from I don't know if you heard that one song. I don't even know what the
Oh,
song
the
is
renegade
called. The
dance.
Renegade Dance. She created
Yeah.
Renegade Dance, and what some white TikTok influencers or Instagram influencers got invited to the NBA All Star game to show people how to do the dance they didn't even invent. The dude who made the song had to tell the NBA to other people, no, this is the girl who created this. She was the first one. This is her creation. Y'all need to give her credit. And basically the whole black internet had to come behind and say, no, give this girl her credit for them to even finally invite her to All Star Weekend. Because this is not just
That's a
something
big one.
where she had a cool little moment or something like that. Stuff like this, people when you create something like this, you know, getting money from it, just
Yeah.
from either her being an
Right.
influencer or advertising or a bunch of different things that she could have missed out on because they automatically attributed it to these little white girls who just happen to have already have some platforms, and they had to like probably more work it took them to create the dance had to be put in to make sure she got her credit in the first place. But
Right.
while she was still, what she got invited also looking people know who it is, but who was still standing right beside her to be in the video too. The white girls who had nothing to do with it, who just saw her dance, thought it was something cool, and then decided to co-opt it for themselves. And I'm not saying they specifically did it to take it away from them. They just saw something and it was like,
Right.
oh well, we've
Yeah.
seen it somewhere. We don't have to attribute to nobody. Let's just go ahead and capitalize it. And they started to benefit almost immediately from it. Where the girl actually created had a, she even was telling people, yo, I created this, I did this, and people were like, yeah, you ain't made nothing, whatever. Stupid black girl doing you ain't do nothing. They had to come out and do all that, and then finally, when the dude who made the song was like, no, no, she actually made it. It took all of that, like little words from the person who made the song, to come up and even say something for her to get credit. And we just
Right.
keep saying it over and over called black literary works, black entertainment works. If it's not a movie where you can see the black person who did it or whatever like that, it's almost like that idea can be co-opted by somebody else. If you don't know who made a song, like how many black writers, their music gets taken or given to white artists. I mean, we saw shit like that, back in the day when you want the person who looks a certain way to perform this or sing this, and not the person actually created. That happened a lot with black artists, but they figured they had to, get their name out there somehow, at least get paid a little bit, but it just kept getting taken from over and over again. And we see it less, but we continue to see it today,
Yeah.
and we're gonna keep seeing it. It's just
Hey,
aggravating.
side note, Lex.
Yeah.
Grab some food off these racks and then come follow me.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna keep
Like,
seeing
yeah,
it and
that
keep
happens.
seeing it and stuff. And it's terrible. And like I said, they wonder why people, why black people deal with everything from imposter syndrome to, like feelings of not belonging in certain spaces because when we have some things or invent certain things, we don't get the credit or it's taken in, given to something else. A lot, what it feels like being black in this country? A lot of times it feels like you're in a group project with a whole bunch of other people. You do all the work, but you
And
don't
they
get
get the
credit for that
credit.
work. They get the credit for it. That's what it feels like a lot of times today. And it's just constantly, it's aggravating.
But I mean, it's everywhere. That whole thing seeps to everything. It's just like everything you can think of, you know? It's just everything. Like, even down to talking about some of these things, like, Ed is fed the fuck up. But, like just talking
Yep.
about some of these things, like, you gotta. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but it's like you get into this thing where it's like you have to justify your right to be upset about something by someone else's right to be upset about something. So it's
Oh
just like
man, yeah.
a lot of people will get into that sort of rabbit hole of slavery versus the Holocaust, or
Oh yeah,
you
cannibals.
know, that whole thing of like, oh well, you know, they have all of these shootings in Chicago. So why are you mad about this
Black on
shooting?
black crime.
Well, or like when you watch, you know, for example, the Sandy Hook shooting, which, you know, this guy comes in
Got wait,
because
look
he
out,
had
wait.
a bad day. Some girl said no to him. He goes in, he shoots a bunch of 5-year-olds, which is ridiculous. And then like, you know, that automatically all the candidates take that up. Oh my gosh, we got to do something about gun control. We got to do something about reforms. We got to do something about whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like if it happens to a black person, like
Yeah. Oh, like the crack
we're not talking
epidemic
about
and
those.
opium. Crack
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Right, and it was with the opium, with the heroin and the opium and
Yeah.
everything, the opiate addiction crisis. It's a crisis. But when it
Right.
was us and it was the crack that was being put into the communities, then
Yeah.
all of
No
a
one gave a
sudden nobody gave a fuck. It was, oh, you got to talk to your community leaders. It's like you got to talk about, you know, you got to talk to the preachers. You got to talk to the community. That's your problem. That's a black problem, you know. And if we catch you with this, it's gonna weigh 100 times more than any other drug.
Mm-hmm.
right.
So, you know, you have an ounce. That's 100 years for you. Like
Even
it's,
though we
you
put
know
it
what
in
I'm
your
saying? Like
community.
it's right, and it's just like you see it everywhere. Like after a while, I mean, for me anyway, I had a feeling of hopelessness. Like I can make a change in one particular area. I can try and fund the people who are going to change other particular areas, but I don't know of a place on the planet where I can go and not have to deal with this shit. If I move to Japan, I'm gonna have to deal with anti-blackness. Sure as shit if
Mm-hmm.
I move to South Korea. If I move to like maybe I have to go to Ghana. I heard things are nice in Ghana. I heard things
Yeah.
are really nice in Singapore.
Oh, Ghana
Like
is sponsoring.
Oh
They
yeah.
want people
Singapore
to
is a big
come.
melting pot, ain't it?
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean
And a
it's
lot of
expensive to live in New
Singapore is
York. I'll
pretty.
live.
They're pretty regressive in a lot of ways too, though. You gotta be careful with that.
Yeah.
You know, you might not deal with
But
some of the
it's
schism, but you deal with some other stuff.
I'm telling you, man. Like, cause where can you go? There's no place in the U.S. where you can go and you don't have to deal with this. Brutality is police brutality, especially, is a
We've been
problem.
traced with it, I think.
Even in New York, like you know, like you be in the middle of Manhattan, somebody come up like Amadou Diallo standing outside his apartment,
Chilling.
minding his black ass business, and they put 41 shots into him. That means people had to reload to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
keep shooting at him.
To keep shooting. Keep shooting.
Like, you know, like you got bachelorette parties out here or like bachelor parties out here. You know, this guy gets shot up, lit up before the night before his wedding.
The night before.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, you know, like it makes me feel sometimes like there's nowhere I can go. There's nothing I can do. Not only will I have to deal with this, my kids will have to deal with this. Like what?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like, you know, because I'm the first in my family to be born in this country, so it's like we've already gone through the whole thing of leaving everything behind to move to a new place for a better life. But then what happens when shit hits the fan? Even
Hold
if
on,
you
say
go
wait.
someplace else, like you still gonna have to deal with different shit that hits a different fan,
Yeah.
and you also have to deal with the idea of your kid being detached from whatever culture you have and not being able to relate to you at all on certain levels. Like even when I talk to my mom about race, she like, you know, she was born and raised in the countryside in Jamaica. She used to tell me that she got here and there were people that she would think back, like her childhood friends and whoever, who she did not realize were white until she got to the U.S. Like when I'm trying to talk about like race and ancestry, whatever, what have you, and she's just like, race was just not like that. Like it was, listen, here's a person, like, and that's a person, all right, and that was
Yep.
That's
it.
dope. Yeah, that's dope.
Like it's different. It's different. Like it's no matter where you go,
I don't think
it's
there's too many
problems.
places. I don't think there's too many places you can
Yeah.
go that basically anywhere that has had any type of colonization or outside influence, whatever, or it has like a lopsided majority when it comes to ethnic groups. Like you said, unless you go somewhere like maybe Singapore in some areas, but there's gonna be problems in a different manner, or the Philippines or certain other places. Even if there's very few places, like you said, Ghana maybe, but the problem is if going somewhere like Ghana or South Africa or anywhere, you won't be looked down upon because of your skin color, but you gotta worry about that xenophobia too. That's still going to be there. You got to worry about that. Like that's going to be a whole issue in and of itself because that's that tribalism at work. People you're an outsider, you're not from here. Then you know I don't have to give you the same amount of grace or consideration that 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 you would get that I would give someone who's from here or from home or anything like that. Yeah, I mean I think about sometimes too. There's not many places I would want to live. Even when it's fun, there's not many places I would want to live outside of this country. Like I would love, if it was economically viable or something like that, to live in like Jamaica or something like that. You know, but it's pretty more expensive and still the fact that you live on an island and a lot of stuff has to be imported. Stuff gets expensive. But the thing is, like when my wife and I were honeymooning down there, like just being around mostly primarily black people, just like a feeling you really won't really get anywhere else. It's like I couldn't. It's hard to describe. Like leaving there, we were sad leaving because it's like we were just used to the most faces you saw were black faces. Anywhere you went, in the country, not just in the one place, but anywhere you went, there was almost no black people. But you still knew that Spanish and English influence, colonial influence, was still there in a lot of ways. 'Cause you knew it still was where some of the money was and stuff. And you still got to worry about classism and things like that. But yeah, colorism and everything. But yeah, I mean, where can you go?
But there's speaking of which, it's like you have the macro and you have the micro when you talk about these things, right? So it's like in the US, we have like a microcosm of racism at regular size. So, I go to a protest, somebody cracks me over the head, they are really nice to the white girl next to me. I'm redlined out of certain neighborhoods. I don't get the job. I don't get the loan. I don't, like there's certain, how racism works here, but then on an international level, it also works on the macro scale. So you'll have like a U.S. occupation in Haiti, for example. You'll have like a nation becoming impoverished because they have to pay France reparations for the slaves that they lost when they lost the island. So then you also have like in the modern times, all of that comes along with it. But then you also have the more modern times where you have something like an IMF where, the IMF comes in and says, we'll give you money to help you out if you import things from certain companies, you import things from certain countries, and effectively decimate either your people or your economy or your agricultural economy. You have Bill Clinton going to England and saying, release these, special things, these special agreements between you and the Caribbean for your quote can compete. So what happens is now in order to interact with certain things, and you see this with Samoa as well, way off, like on a tangent sort of, but with the way that they can't really interact with the World Trade Organization unless they import certain things. And so what happens with Jamaica too is that, the special relationship is lifted, the agricultural market is decimated, which means the economy takes a humongous hit. Like you have, from where before it used to be the breadbasket of the Caribbean, now they get most of their stuff from, tourism. So it's kind of, it's like you have it on a person-to-person scale here, but then even internationally, like when you see a lot of these countries that don't do as well, quote unquote, as the U.S., you really have to think about the U.S.'s interference in certain things, the way they have like prevented people from investing, or like they'll threaten with sanctions if they do certain things.
Oh, think
Like,
about
and it's
Cuba.
like
Perfect example.
Cuba,
Cuban embargo.
yeah, like Like, yeah,
Cuban
like
embargo. Yeah.
it's exactly what happened. They imported the racism as well to Cuba. Like there's so many things. And so it's like you go to a certain place and it's like you kind of have to accept the fact that it will never, like, you call it a developing country, but the countries that are quote unquote developing, that developed already, are actively preventing
Yeah, are
certain things
actively
from
raping.
happening.
Yeah.
Right, especially on the continent of Africa. So it's just like you know, where France or, you know, Germany or whoever will still rule by proxy, sort of, kind of.
I mean, even think about
So
modern day, consider what's going on in Africa with, Chinese corporations coming in, bringing their people to do a lot of, mining and stuff like that over
yeah,
in Africa. And instead of bringing jobs and resources to the country, they're importing their people as well.
Yeah,
right.
you know what, and also Akon supports a business that does that, and
Yeah.
it kind of upsets me a little bit.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's about money
But
for 'em.
I mean, he is bringing like water and electricity to Africa in certain spots that it's
But
hard to
he's
get.
he's he's assisting in basically their resources being flooded and going to the benefit of an entire another country. You're taking stuff from the continent
Yeah.
that's going to a whole other country. You know.
So he's praised for doing that on one hand, but he's also fucking them over too. So
In a
Yeah.
way, and in ways, there are no ways around it sometimes, because it's just like, you know, here's someone who's willing to buy these resources for a better rate than the next person. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, there are so many different ways that it ends up being shitty, and then it's like directly comparable to, you know, a neighborhood being raised, you know, like, so that you could put a park up, for a culture being taken from with no credit being given, you know, like, it's just, you know, like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
it's and so you have the same system working on an international level. So even if you do try to move to a predominantly black country, you got the same issues. So it's like,
Yep.
you know, it's pros and cons. You have the, you know, the banker is black, the homeless guy is black, the judge is black, the lawyer is black, the teachers are black, you're black, the person who reads the news is black. But then you still have a lot of the same struggles, but on a national level, where it's like you're still trying to get a seat at the table. And there are people who are actively like, well, unless you sign your soul over to us and import this shit that's going to fuck your country up, we don't want to hear you. And where are those people from? In a lot of cases, the US. In the case of the World Trade Organization, they're in certain industries that would directly benefit from this, from the
hmm
UK, from other places in Europe. Like, it's just, you know, like, there's just a sense
that's a
of
lot, man.
hopelessness. Like,
Yeah.
and now, you know, sharing is
Everybody's
caring. Now
hands
you
is in
have it
somebody's
too.
pocket, boy.
Hold on, where'd you go with?
Uh,
Okay, I see you.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, shit. It's a lot. I mean, it's a whole lot. Like you said, you try to figure out what can you do because after all these globalization initiatives and basically the colonization of all these countries, so not too many places you can't really go to get away from it that way. I mean, there's a big reason why um, the U.S. dollar is accepted so many places because they're so influential in so many places. You
yeah,
know,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I feel like we've
facts.
had a pretty good conversation on this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, this was a
kind of,
good episode.
we went down some tangents and everything, but you know, everything was tied. I think everything was so kind of tied together in a way, which is good.
Yeah,
I mean, anybody who's going to listen to this eventually, when we get a bunch of listeners, hopefully, they'll get used to the rants and diatribes and stuff like that. But I mean, that's going to happen. But I mean, it's what we're talking about, stuff we're discussing. So, and this is stuff that's real to us. It's stuff that's going to affect us.
yeah,
From
Hmm.
everything from our
Hmm.
day-to-day lives, whether it's worrying about the second wave of COVID, because eventually that's going to happen. Well, I don't know if I really
Yeah.
call it a wave because it's not really getting a chance to go down. It's just people aren't talking about it the same way. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, everything from that, you know, just the insidious of racism, sexism, you know, big overall bigotry and stuff. You know, stuff we gotta, you know, take into consideration, and we're gonna have to live with it. And then any kids we have, we're gonna have to get used to and live with it too. Hopefully, in their lifetime, because I don't think it's gonna happen in our lifetime, but in their lifetime, maybe we'll see some improvement somewhere. You know, maybe some change. And I'm hoping we're gonna be seeing a lot of change soon. Um, when it comes, you know, that we start to see a bunch of change. You know, because we start seeing a good amount. You know, not enough. Some stuff that's a couple hundred years late, but I try to be a little optimistic. Better late than never. So hopefully
Yeah.
we'll start to see some things, you know, to improve. Like I said, no not warrant things. Hopefully we'll see that go away from more
Yeah. Why is
places.
lynching a crime now? It's like
Right.
you would have thought that's something that would have been outlawed a
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
fucking
Like
time ago.
I mean, I think certain states have had it outlawed, but definitely in a way that, you know, for it to just now become a federal thing is just crazy. Like that's just wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit. I mean, that's what it is. Hopefully, we'll just continue to see it get better. You know, um, maybe by the end of 2025, we'll see no more Confederate flags in public places outside of people's private property. A number of things. Oh, this shit's crazy. I mean, people want to continue to fly the flags of losers. I mean, what are you gonna do? But hold on a second. Um, but maybe we'll see that go away at some point. But either way, like I said, we've had a great conversation. We're at about 2.5 hours of talking, which I think is pretty
Hey.
consistent, you know, which is pretty good. You know, I think it's gonna be a great episode. Hopefully it gets fully covered in a lot of ways. But yeah, this has been episode 9. Kim, really glad you came on with us and ranted
Thanks,
and
Kim.
Yeah,
talked and
thanks for
discussed
having
and all
me, you
this stuff.
guys.
You know, definitely have to have you on again. You know, shout out to Mark. He couldn't be there all the time because he had to be a responsible adult and go to work. You know, but as always, make them damn tacos. But it's his contribution, of course, appreciated as always. But yeah, this has been episode 9. We appreciate you guys being here, and we out.